So we've had a yeah. Hi, welcome again. Yeah. We've had to figure out what works and what doesn't work, and I think that's expected in any craft. I think everyone has refined things in their lives, and it's not fun when you figure out that you need to refine. So, coming into year 3 of travels, I've put a lot of energy in getting it right this time. So I've been, as Jacques can tell you, really under the gun at home, just trying to get this right. Self-induced pressures, no foreign elements. But even things like the chips, the batteries, just you learn where the pitfalls are, who's your friend and who's not your friend. We had to learn those lessons.
Yeah.
Who the vipers on the path are, and friends you didn't realize you had. I mean, all these different things. So it's been, as I'd say, those are kind of what's going on in the background of these trips. And I think Jacques and I have found out on the first trip, those are the highest points of the trip, finding out the secret goods and the secret bads. And then you just try to perfect that. And I think that's what this year's travels are all about. So I'm here now, and then I'm going to be going back and turning right around again and going to America. It's going to be, sometimes we put a lot of pressure on ourselves with this cause, message, whatever it is. So in late May, I'll be in Texas, in Baltimore, and Pittsburgh, my 40th birthday. So that's kind of been a personal milestone that we've been working towards, getting Rabbi Katz towards over 40. So finally that happened, God willing. So usually Cape Town is like 1A, and then the American counterpart is 1B. And they go hand in glove. So this is the official kickoff, right, for this year, brand new year of travels. And again, you're just trying to perfect it as you go. So that's where I've been in terms of the preparation and my personal theme of this trip. I know that it probably doesn't sound that interesting, but it is in terms of there's a lot of wisdom in these things. And I think those that come to class, what do you call it, GSS or Getzels, or which one we call it?
GSS, yeah.
I think we'll just call it GSS.
Yeah.
So these are the things that I teach, because they come every day in our lives. How's it going? Yeah, it's all right. It's part of, I think, the main GSS message, and what this doesn't get translated on Facebook world too much, is the message isn't so much a religious message. And that's why I guess we'll call them the haters out there, are so off base, because it's not really a religious or spiritual message in that you're making a religion. No, we're not, because that's not the message. The message is how to live with wisdom and how to incorporate wisdom in your life. And by definition, that's not wrong. You can't. It's not wrong to say, how do I improve my life with wisdom? We've refined it to where it can't be wrong. It might not be your cup of tea, but you can't say it's wrong. If you're a baseball player and you say how to more effectively hit a baseball, how can that be wrong, right? So you might say my results don't produce results. That's fine. Then this is not for you. But to say it's wrong, and all the more so, a new religion and such, for the naysayers out there, that's not the message. So a lot of the things is just how to bring holiness in the form of wisdom in your life on daily living. Would you say it's inaccurate? And how to approach Torah, which is what tonight's talk's going to be about. How to approach Torah study from a self-improvement perspective and from a wisdom perspective. And again, it's not a religious message. You know what I mean by when I say religious message? Like, well, us in this form of Judaism, we believe in... No, that's not what I'm here to do. That's why there is no wrong to what this is. Again, it might not be your cup of tea, but it's not wrong. It's how to more effectively study Torah with principles and disciplines and good habits, good advice on how to learn, a good approach of how to learn. That's what the Get Soul Strong. Again, you guys know what Get Soul Strong is, right? It's the new, God willing, launch this coming week. We'll put the final. What's that? Final touches on the official launch. So it's been going unofficially for about 7 years, but officially, hopefully next week. And when I say officially, we want Jacques to be able to be proficient at helping you guys get on and do what you need to do, and then hopefully Cape Town is the template for all other people to come in and get involved and do the things. So Jacques will be the pivot man for that job, right? So again, I'm a bit rambling, but I'm trying to give different angles and perspectives, tying it all together. That's what the message is. I mean, there is a religious component to it, don't get me wrong, but that's not what I focus on. I'm focusing on really a yeshiva mindset and approach to one's own spirituality.
Can you just say what yeshiva is?
Yeah, yeshiva is Jewish learning environment. So, I'm not your pastor, and when I'm starting to realize that the fighting going on is pastoral warfare, which I didn't know that because I don't really come from that world. But that's what it is. It's pastors fighting, and this message is not that kind of thing. It's more meat, potatoes, and nuts and bolts about how to improve religious behavior through wisdom. Right? I don't know how many more ways I can express that point. Your relationship with God ultimately comes down to you. I wouldn't even want to step into that territory. And I think people that do, maybe somebody's good at it, but that's private. I mean, if you want to share and you want to discuss things, that's a different story. That's like camaraderie, which that's fine. But to say, I have your answers, come to it, that's like a guru. That's not, I don't think, again, it can be kosher. I'm not going to say it's not, but it's not something you go on the internet marketing, hey, come to me with your spirituality. No, but what I can say is I can help you improve your spiritual disciplines. And I think that's what yeshiva teaches. That's how my yeshiva experience was, and I'm trying to recreate it for all of you and everybody out there. For example, again, this is kind of like I told Jacques, this is where we're going to focus on tonight's talk. Is
we all need that.
Yeah. Then that's what I can only do my gifts that I have, just like you can only do the gifts you have. The gifts that I have is God let me stay in yeshiva, learning in a serious environment for over a decade. So it's like it's a bracha. Not many people have that bracha, and I don't know anything else. I mean, I could make it up. I could reinvent myself, but why? I'm not. It's not my job. I can only do what I can do. So, when I was a young student in yeshiva, my Rosh Yeshiva's name is Rav Weingat. Jacques had the privilege of meeting Rav Weingat when we were in Sfat. I guess I'll bring the Kabbalah story later. So, it's actually, I'll weave in a lot of interjections like I usually do on my first night of talking. So, actually I'll bring the Kabbalah in a little bit now. So Jacques came to, again, this is all one theme. It's going to be about how to learn in yeshiva, but I'm going to bring a lot of personal anecdotes and stories to facilitate the conversation. So, when did you get to? You came after Russell. So this past November, the Texas Gare crew invaded Israel, and they had signs in the streets, watch out for Russell Kirk. So they came. How did that go? They came, and I think I picked them up at the airport. So it's a blur at this point. And then we went back to, I think, Modine. I'm not even sure. First, I think we may have gone to Modine. I'm not sure. It's such a blur. But we spent Shabbos in Sfat. And Jacques was slated to come, Sunday, after Shabbos. So we had a nice Shabbos, and Jacques came. By that time, the group was solidified. There was, give or take, 10 people in this entourage. And again, I don't remember the details. I don't know where we went from point A to point B. But by the end of the week, I guess I am going to tell the Kabbalah story as it goes. Jacques is a very special guy. He likes to tell, be a nudnik on a certain level of things. Ask me 20 million times, are we going to do Kabbalah? So I had no reason to say no, but I don't know how we're going to pull that off. I mean, okay, Jacques, yeah, I think so.
Maybe you should explain what Kabbalah is.
Yeah. So Kabbalah, well, and I'll explain that later. I don't want to get into. Just there's a thing called Kabbalah. Just imagine it's a very nice thing, and I'll explain what it is as we go. You'll get it from context of the story. Okay, so Jacques keeps saying we want to do Kabbalah. He's interjecting, in his rhythm. And again, I had no reason not to do it. It wasn't my first priority. I just figured it would happen. With a country of 7 million Jews, how can it not happen? Right? You need 3 Jews to make a quasi Beit Din to bestow official Ger Toshav on a non-Jew who rejects Avodah Zorah in Shituf. Shituf, any belief system that is not 100% kosher God-based. So, what constitutes Shituf? That's a whole class by itself. Actually, we should probably write that down. We should probably definitely give a class on that. Seriously, right? Make a note of the ins and outs of Shituf.
Okay.
Next week we need to give
Huh?
I've
got it on the video. I've got it on the opinion now.
I'll write it down.
You write it down.
Yeah. Yeah, but the philosophical ins and outs and all of that. That'd be a great class to do.
Yeah.
So the week goes by. We tour around Israel, and it was good. I'm not going to say it was compared to the Kabbalah thing. It was just good. It was a good solid trip. So we had a little bit of a quarrel in the group, and I don't mean that in a bad way. What were we going to do with Thursday? There was this Thursday. And they wanted to go to the Vendel dig site, which apparently you have to be a marathon runner to get there, and a skilled hiker. And Russell, bless his heart, is on a cane. So, no, we're not climbing mountains with Russell. Or with me, or with Jacques, or anybody else in the group. Or, great idea. But, yeah, I'd love to see the Qumran, but and another Gilgal maybe. So we kind of reconvene on the fly, and we decide that Thursday is going to be Temple Mount Day. And was that the Old City Day? Was it the same thing? I forget what it was by now. But whatever it was, that's what that day was going to be. So we want to go up on the Temple Mount real early because the lines are very long, and we don't want to waste the whole day standing in line. So I'm going to tell the expanded version of the story. So as a Jew, my job was to go to the mikveh. That's one of the requirements. So I go early in the morning. I had to find the mikveh. And then we all get in line around 6:45. And voila, we're up on the Temple Mount. So I don't even know why I go into the Kabbalah story transition from where I was. But anyways, we're telling the Kabbalah story. So we go on the Temple Mount. And there's maybe 20 Jews up there, and my little entourage of Gerim, which whatever it is. So we're touring around. It's my second time up there. I would have to say my first time was a profound experience, and I would say that this time was anything but profound. I was kind of annoyed, as the guys will tell you. I don't know. It was like I felt like my first time up. It wasn't commercial. It was a holy experience, and this time I felt like the Jews that were involved were making it very commercial. Just kind of like workmanlike. Yeah, we're on the Temple Mount. They made it like this is the Temple Mount. It should be a bit of a holy experience. But there were like these 3 or 4 Haredi Jews, black and white, and we got to this area of the mount where it was like a stone wall. And they started telling us in Hebrew, like, this is a very special place. This is a holy place. We know! It's Temple Mount. It's not Disneyland. And so I'm getting really frustrated. Like, can you make it a little bit more something? Something was missing. So we were up there. It was Russell Kirk, Jacques, Jake Fry, and Teresa, Russell's wife. So I really was upset. It was way too commercial. Again, there was nothing heartfelt about it. And maybe because I'm a Cohen up there where the service is, I just felt I needed to do something. So I told Jake Fry, I said, look out. We don't have much support from the pastoral rabbi world, because the scholar rabbis get ger toshav, no question. That's long been established. The Laws of Ger Toshav book proves that came from the Soloveitchik work. I mean, any scholar knows there's a Ger Toshav today. End of story. That's also be a theme on this trip, really refining that. Because last year we were also figuring it out on the trip last year. This year we've moved on. We figured it out. But it's like the B-rated rabbis, the YouTube rabbis, the Kiruv rabbis, the superstar rabbis. Not too many of them are getting this. And it's a little bit annoying, to put it mildly. But one guy who is getting it is Avram Greenbaum, the overseeing rabbi of Nativ, which you guys are technically an offshoot of Nativ, down in Houston with Rod Bryant. And he's made about 3 or 4 pro-Ger videos, even mentioning me and Chaim by name. And Chaim's another story. But he's unequivocally, right, pro whatever Ger is. You want to call it the Ger cause, the Ger mess, whatever you want to put in there, he is definitely on it. So, why did I mention Greenbaum? I forgot where I was going with that.
On the mountain with these.
Yeah, I forget where I was going with that.
You told Jake Fry, Mr. Careful?
Yeah, but I was gonna. I forget where I was going with that thread. But anyways,
Who's this rabbi?
Avram Greenbaum. He's the overseeing rabbi of Nativ with Rod.
Oh, Nativ.
Yeah. So I tell Jake Fry. That I was saying that too many people don't get what it is. So they were all Hebrew speakers, and I told Jake Fry. I said, "Oh, that's what I was." Greenbaum, in his video that I think came out right around that time, and we were watching it, I think, at Nani's house. He says that this Rabbi Katz fellow, he's a bit pugnacious. So we didn't know what pugnacious. I didn't know what pugnacious meant, and I looked up. We're going around in this big van with the group, and I'm like, working the whole time, and I thought, what is pugnacious? So I Google it, and basically, if you were to imagine an image, what is pugnacious? It's like a bare-fisted boxer doing this. So I guess I'm a bit pugnacious. And I said to Jake, well, we're about to get pugnacious over here. So I'm walking. And I turned, and there was like a half Rebbe type character, like an older black and white Haredi guy. He was the one giving like this makom zeh, the makom kadosh. This place is a whole. We know, really, we do. So I thought, I'm gonna get him. So I turn around. We're walking all around. It's a massive walk around the Temple Mount. So I said, what do you think about? I'm like looking on my shoulder. What do you think about the Arabs being Ger Toshav? And he says, no. I said, oh, yes. He says, mapitom. I said, no. Yishmaelim lo ger toshav? Ishmaelites are not ger toshav? And he's like, mapitom, no. I'm like, lo, as lama yesh lehem dara haki lamata be'shitas ger toshav? How come they're the lowest common denominator in the laws of ger toshav? And he's like, no, can't be. Like, no. I mean, imagine one of the Temple Mount, the most contested place on earth, at the Dome of the Rock, and here's me telling this guy that the overlords of the Temple Mount are Ger Toshav. Well, they are. So I started to get him a little bit, and then like the other guys started like converging. You can see the video; it's on various venues. And I said, okay, so then Jacques enters my mind. When you have nevela, who do you give that to? And they said, we give it to the dogs. I said, no, you don't. You give it to a Ger Toshav. And then by that time, I don't know if you saw the video, like we're walking, and a big group is forming, and I'm just going into my whole progression of, my Ger Toshav stuff. So by then, we finish the tour, and we stop, and their final conclusion is, okay, so there's Ger Toshav, but where would we find 4 non-Jews like this? Or 4. I said, where would we find non-Jews like this? I said, we have 4 of them right here. Wow. So I said, Jacques, you want to do Kabbalah? And Jacques says, yeah. So I said, you guys want to do Beit Din? They said, yeah. So they formed a 3-man Beit Din. And I said, Jacques, do you accept the 7 laws of Noah? And he says, yes, I accept the 7 laws of Noah. I said, do you reject Shituf? He says, I reject Shituf. And they say, Makabel, Makabel, Makabel. We accept, we accept, we accept. And then Jake did it, then Russell did it, then Teresa did it. And then that was it. We went down. And by that time, Russell was going to go back to Texas after Shabbos, and then Jacques was going to stay another couple days. But that was the highlight of the trip. So you can see there was an annoyance up there. It had to come down, and it did. So we officially did the Kabbalah. So Jacques came back with a little bit of fire and energy, I guess, from the experience. It was definitely worthy of Temple Mount profound experience. So that's how we tied the story in. So then Russell went back, and Jacques was staying at my house, and Jacques missed the Sfat Shabbos experience. So we drove up. What was it? I forget what we did. What was Sunday? Sunday was Russell was gone.
It was Monday.
I know. So what did we do Sunday? I think we just recovered, right? Went to Lef's Kola, maybe?
Yeah, we just put it around.
Yeah. So by Monday, we drive up to Sfat and spent the night at Chaim's Monday night. And then Tuesday, I think we went through, Tveria, and went through, yeah, that's right. And then we came back to my house Tuesday, whatever it was. So in Sfat, I wanted to give Jacques the authentic Sfat experience, because also it's a highly, highly commercialized experience, which you could say Noah Hyde is just a commercial experience, and I'm very much one of those guys that's against commercialism. And I don't mean that like in a money way. Just I like the authentic thing. If I'm going to go on a trip to Cape Town, don't take me to the most commercial elements of Cape Town. I've always been this way. I wanted the authentic experience. The opposite of commercialism in my brain is authentic. And so many times, every time someone goes to Sfat, you get on a tour bus, and they buy some candles, buy some art, and go home. And I wanted Jacques to at least see what I had the privilege to experience for those 10 plus years that I was in Sfat. I think it opened up both of our eyes. But the point is, I didn't want Jacques to have a ridiculous commercial experience. And what was my point with the Temple Mount? Why should anybody have a commercial experience on the Temple Mount? And again, Noahism is a commercial religious experience. Here, come to the shul so we can look at you like a commercialized thing. It's not what this is. So, in Sfat, where we went around doing our things, I was a little bit under the weather, which was unexpected, and that was a little bit annoying. But then we're walking down one of my favorite streets in the whole world, and it's where the street of the yeshiva that I basically had my second childhood at. I grew up a second time, my 20s in Sfat. And we'd make a left on that road. And then I thought, man, I haven't been back to the yeshiva in so long. And so much has changed since I left. I left in 2011. I left in order, in my own mind at that time, without knowing any of, obviously, what's going to happen. I told a friend of mine, I want to go be a light to nations. I had no idea what that meant. But it just seemed like that's what you're supposed to do. You were in yeshiva, you learned, now go, what are you going to do with it? It never occurred to me, go make Jews more Jewish, because why? They're already Jewish. I never understood that. So I understood the message back then, and I got a job teaching English at Berlitz, International English as a Second Language, and I was teaching in Muslim villages, speaking of which. So that's where my journey began, post yeshiva. And from then, my wife passed on, as many of you know, and I'm raising my kids. So going and hanging out with yeshiva students in Sfat, where I was a student myself for so long, was not my first priority. I was now in my 30s, and I'm growing up, and doing this thing. I wasn't looking to go back. There was no context to go back to yeshiva. And I hadn't been back. The building that I learned in burned down on the inside. So even the building that I knew, I took you there, right? It wasn't what I knew. It was a completely different place. So I felt like all my connections in Sfat were over. My wife is gone. My friends I grew up with there all had moved on. And the ones that remained there, it's just, everyone moved on. It was a long time ago. So Jacques and I are going down the street, and I say, you know what? I said, we're going to do something, and it's going to either be really good or really bad. He says, what do you want to do? I said, let's go to the yeshiva, and I'll introduce you to the yeshiva. And I said, brace yourself. It could be pretty weird. I don't know what to expect. So we go in, and they gave me a very nice greeting, which I have not been back since I left. So I introduced them to Jacques, and again, so that's also kind of a jab for the Noahide world. They don't say this openly like this, but you can say like, no kosher Orthodox learning environment would ever accept some radical idea of David Katz about Ger Toshav and blah blah blah. Jacques, did they give you any problems? Yeah. Yeah, schrijf. Yeah. Did they give you a problem in the yeshiva? Did they look at you weird?
No.
Did they have a problem with Ger Toshav?
Nothing.
Did we explain it exactly as radical as it goes on Facebook? And
Yes.
yeah, the whole experience. We were there for just under an hour. Rav Wein got. Yeah, again, imagine if this is not a kosher thing. Let's pretend this is not kosher, right? A cult, and it's pro-Jesus even, let's say, right? So if I take Jacques into a Orthodox Haredi yeshiva in Sfat, and this guy is all about Yeshu, and I'm bringing him in, how long would I be allowed to have that go on before I get thrown out?
2 minutes.
Right? So you can imagine how ridiculous it is for people that don't get this to say, it's this, it's that. No, I took him not only into my yeshiva, we went to Rabbi Lef's Kollel in Modin Elite, which is just as strong as Bnei Brak in Israel. And we sat and we learned in the Beis Medrash, learning Ger Toshav stuff, top volume, because I can't do it any other way. Guys came up and met Jacques. Jacques wearing his I Get Nilva hat. And they implied to Jacques that if he was Jewish, and Jacques told them no. How many people had a problem with it?
0.
None. How many people even thought, now that's kind of weird? Now, if I would have said, this is my Christian friend Jacques, and he's pro-Jesus, and he's pretending to be Jewish to infiltrate your inner sanctum of learning environments so that he can bring down Judaism, right? I don't think that would have lasted too long.
Not long.
No, not long at all. So,
It's not like that every way.
what's that?
It's not like that every way.
In a Beit Midrash, it's always like that.
What?
In a synagogue, you might find it different.
What's that?
The reception
Well,
of...
that's the thing. And again, as we learn and refine on these trips, Cape Town taught me a lesson last year. I mean, many lessons last year. But again, these are trivial things that I've known. But when you go out and you travel and you experience different communities, you learn about yourself and communities and people. Now, I'm not a synagogue guy. I'm a Beis Midrash guy. There's the synagogue and the academic environment. They're not the same. And Jews will frequent one or the other. I mean, there's a lot of black and white in Judaism. A lot. Are you a Talmud guy? Are you a Shulchan Aruch guy? Are you a Halacha guy? Are you a Kabbalah guy? Are you a prayer? Are you a learner? And there's a billion of these. And it's not a bad thing. It's just Judaism's very black or white. Where you are on this side or on that side? Where are you at? And I'm not a synagogue guy. I'm not the guy just keeping quiet and sitting tight and making my prayers and going home. And I'm a Beis Midrash yeshivish guy. That's what I was brought into. It's where I thrived. Now, you do pray in a Beis Midrash, but it's, again, they're separate environments. You don't learn so much in a Beit Knesset, a synagogue. You just hear a quick little drasha from the rabbi, and you get patted on the head, and you move on. And in the Beis Midrash, it's a aggressive learning environment. The Beit Knesset is not an aggressive environment. So, in the yeshiva world, Ger Toshav, it's not well known because it's in the parts of Torah that are just not well known. But guys that know it, and there's plenty of guys that know it, and we've proven that, with the work that's in Laws of Ger Toshav book, is just a tip of the iceberg of how much Jewish academic awareness is in the subject of Ger Toshav. And in my touring, I find the guys that embrace me right away are the ones that know the work, and the ones that reject it are the ones that don't know, and they're shocked that I would suggest that there's something they don't know. And then I get surprised sometimes. When I was in Pittsburgh, I was a guest speaker at a shul on Shabbos, and he said, the dreaded question, what are you speaking about and what do you do? And then I was like, oh, okay, here we go. So it's going to be love or hate, right? So I do Ger Toshav stuff. And he's like, oh, so my Rebbe wrote a book on Ger Toshav. So I said, wow, that's kind of weird. Who's your Rebbe? He says, Beryl Wine. He's one of the very famous rabbi today. He's a Jewish historian. Now, first of all, I didn't know that he was a Talmud Chacham. I thought he was just some art scroll, name. But it turns out he used to be really deep into... he still is, but I'm saying, but he was known back then in the 70s, 80s for more deeper learning. I don't know why he went Jewish historian, but I didn't know he was that hardcore. So the guy lent me his copy of the Ger Toshav book. I didn't bring it on this trip just because I just didn't. But I read through it, and again, so I'm gonna give you guys a little pop quiz. Ready? So here's the pop quiz. I'm in Pittsburgh, and I'm looking through Beryl Wine's book on Ger Toshav. Right? How do I know that this is all legit? That Beryl Wine is a true Talmud Chacham. He knows Ger Toshav. Da 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 da. And in another 3 or 4 hours, when I go speaking in the shul, I don't have to pray that I don't get killed. Why? What are the signs? How do I know? Inside the book, you think there's copy and paste?
Yeah.
Absolutely. And what's that called in a bigger term? The sugya. He's just bringing the sugya. Sugya is the Talmudic discussion. And the way Torah works is, and this is where I love my little Facebook detractors, Rabbi Katz doesn't even know what the words mean. You're right, I don't. Because I'm not trying to. In Torah, sources that are copy and paste. Now, do I really not know what the words mean? I do know what they mean. But I intentionally don't translate the words. Because they're not meant all the time to be translated. It's copy and paste. All the copy and paste is taking from the sources, and James and I learned this a week or two ago, that when I brought the papers here. When the rabbis build a Talmudic argument, right, you don't even have to read and understand the first 5, 6, 7 or more lines. They're just bringing you the sources, the sugya, copy and paste, so that it's more like plugins. So when you say Vodazora 64b, Rabbi Meir Omer, Ger Toshav, Bifnei Gimel Chaverim, okay, I know what those mean, but does it matter? No, you're just telling me that you're holding by the first of 3 opinions in Avodah Zorah 64b. There's nothing to talk about. What's your next point? But we see that a goy that keeps Shabbos is Chayav Misa. Okay, so now you just slid over to the Tosfos there. And then you say, but Rashi says that they do keep Shabbos. Okay, so now you're going... It's just like, it's follow the stream. I don't have to think about what you mean. I know what you mean by how you string together the dots. And there's a way to do that, and no one ever deviates from that. Ever. Ever, ever, ever. Like in computer programming, you don't say, I'm going to write this code differently because I like the way this code looks and sounds the way I say it. No! You want to have a computer program that works if you do that. So when I went through the book, I saw, wow, he nailed the sugya. So I never followed up with him about maybe putting it in Laws of Ger Toshav. That's one of the things we got to revisit that issue. Because one of the things that we do is collect all these living rabbis that get ger. And there's plenty. And my job is to find them. And again, I wish the B-level YouTube pastor rabbis would get this, because then it's unfortunate that when people leave the church and you have this non-Jew movement towards Torah, and again, you know it better than anybody else, you guys have been there, why does everybody have to go through YouTube and Facebook and these pastors? I wish we could circumvent that. If we could just cut, then it'd be over. But the fact that we have to entertain this fake war, it's not even really a war. You have people arguing, I'm not talking like the rabbis involved, arguing the position of there's no ger toshav as an opinion when it's not arguable. It's not arguable. And they make it like it is arguable, and then Jacques will tell you, how many opinions? There's two opinions. David Katz is the minority opinion, because nobody says like David Katz. I asked 5 rabbis, and they all said David Katz was wrong. Okay, well, first of all, I will tell you, if I ask 5 rabbis, also they'll all tell me no. I'm aware of that. Because I learned it, there's no ger toshav also. Now, why is it taught there's no ger toshav today? That's another question. I'm in Cape Town, and my mother came and told me this news flash that I never knew. She said, "Did you know there's a water crisis in Cape Town?" No idea. I haven't heard about that. About 5,000 times every day from Jacques. So, in the news, you'll hear that Cape Town has no water. Jacques told me there's how many springs? 36 springs. So, but you'll see, if I ask 100 news sources, is there water in Cape Town? What will the answer be 100 times? No. But is there water? Yes. So, is there a political construct going on here? Or are you guys just like God is vengeful and taking away the water? It's a bit political. But if I go and ask everybody, what happened? Oh, well, just all natural. But again, you're guessing, more guessing. And the people that actually know it and can tell you the story, that version will not be on your Yahoo news page. It will not be the first thing that you read. So I'm aware that's how the world works. When you ask, is there a ger toshav? The answer is no. Ask 1,000 rabbis. No. I learned it that way. Now, again, why does God make... The real question that you have to ask yourself is, why does God allow for misinformation and a cumbersome learning experience? I don't know. But that's not my issue or my business. The issue is there is a ger toshav, and you have to frame the question correctly. So, like for the Cape Town water crisis, so are you saying, Jacques, there's literally no water there? No, I didn't say that. So there's a different story. So again, why is the default resident alien living in Israel at the time of the Jubilee? I don't know. It's just how it comes out. So if people would get it, it would be over. And if people would block those rabbis telling them nonstop that there's all these issues, also it would be over. But this is why Mike's upset. Because every day we're answering and getting asked the same questions for years, which I understand new people are coming out, but it's a little bit, I'm just kind of venting at this point, it's a bit frustrating that everyone that comes out gets stuck in that rut. And then I think we're all getting better at how to deal with it and find the answers. But at the same time, it's an unnecessary evil. It doesn't have to be that way. It doesn't have to be a water crisis here. And anything else, any other crisis in the world. There doesn't have to be a crisis. I guess the word is crisis. It's a crisis. Crisis in that it doesn't have to be that way. If people coming out of the church had a kosher infrastructure to be plugged into, it'd be fine. It'd be gula. But they immediately get thrust into...
Facebook.
Yeah, and it's good intentioned people. It's just like it's a mismatch. It's like saying when my wife passed away, so I'm single now, so I should go to a bar. I don't think that would have been the appropriate first response. But now that I'm single, I should get married again. Let me just go to a bar. That's why my mother said, go find somebody. No, that's not how it works. Doc will tell you, you don't plug yourself into Clippa as soon as you're, out. That's the way the world works. Also, is this is one of the things that I teach a lot too. Every time you leave impurity, the Zohar teaches, the evil forces are just waiting to attack you, because you're free and vulnerable. But think about it on a very practical level. When you get a breakthrough, I just had one recently. What was it? Let me think for a second. So I got this iPod for this trip, and I was doing a lot of preparations for this trip, little things to make my trip more flowing freely. So I bought a lot of things on eBay. Turns out there's free shipping from China, so I got a lot of great little things for like $1. Like little clips and all kind of little things about things for my kids. And I discovered the world of online purchasing. Because in Israel, when you try to buy these things, you pay 20,000 times more and the wrong thing every time. So I'm tired of that experience. And I found a little audio thing that I had been researching for a while. And it was a cheap sale on an auction. So I thought, oh, bonus, there you go. I wasn't even looking for that, and here we go. So that came, and I thought that I would buy a plug to connect to my phone and this thing, like a USB, and hey, bonus, now my phone is like a stereo system. Well, go me. All for a cheap price, right? And it turns out it's a scam. Right? But it's a life scam. Now, the chip works really good with my computer, and that's why I bought it. It turns again, this is another scam. So we have computers and cell phones, which everyone knows you can play music on your phone and computer, right? So if you were, let's say, a novice to amateur, intermediate music lover, follow the story with me, okay? And we have a nice computer and a nice everyone's got a cell phone today, a smartphone basically, more or less, right? So I'm empowered with my smartphone, and I'm empowered with everyone's got a computer like Jacques, I assume, right? So can I listen to good quality music now that I have this great technology? What do you think?
No.
Why?
Need good speakers.
Really? You think so? No.
Phone is telling you.
Speakers are not the bottleneck. But the question is, where's the bottleneck? Where's the problem?
Quality of
Sound quality.
But what does that mean? We all know that. So sound quality means I'm going to go buy very expensive JBL speakers, and now what? Did I unbottleneck my problem?
quality of the actual song.
Quality of
Compatibility.
The file?
The recording.
Yeah.
Is that the source of the problem?
Yeah.
You think so?
That will be the start.
It's one of the parts, but it's not the real yesod.
The music,
It's also the place.
Hmm?
music.
Nope.
Your own ears.
Nope. So there's something.
Compatibility.
These are all components, but the main, if you want to really knock out the source, like the root, everything else you're talking is true. But it's like you can't even begin playing until you fix this problem. It's called DAC,
What is that?
digital analog converter. Your phone and your computer has some very good components and some very cheap junk components. They put junk DACs in these things because otherwise this phone would be $6,000, whatever it is. So your phones have cameras. Are they great cameras? No. The components to make the phone affordable can't be that great. So they try to upgrade it, this and that. But now, are you going to go on a photo shoot with a phone? No. So then you have to ask, what am I missing? So in the music experience, you're missing a DAC. And then if you look on Amazon, there's proper DACs that you plug into your computer. And now your speakers can work. They weren't even working before. There was a bottleneck in getting them to work. So now if you want to improve the speakers, improve the file, you improve the musical experience. So, I got to think about how I got onto that thread. How did we get on that thread? About the bottleneck and
You said
improve.
the great achievement that you had.
Where?
And I don't know. You
Yeah,
said, you said let me give you an example,
Yeah.
and then you were
Evil
talking
forces
about
attack
it.
you when you add An achievement.
Yes. And
That's right. Yeah. So that's what it is. So that's what it is. So I got the USB, the chip for my computer, which it did unbottleneck my computer. It fixed it. Very cheap, for $30. There it was. Boom, miracle. So now I have this phone, and I'm thinking, put the two together, and it's like a free win, right? So if I go to China and get a cable for like $1, now my phone is a massive entertainment center. I win. No, the chip is too powerful for the cords that come from China.
It's not inferior.
Yeah. So now you would need a high-powered cord from the chip to the phone in order for that to work. Now, where are you going to find the cord? So now,
The decent one.
that's the thing. So now you come out of one clipper, and you unbottleneck, and I did fix my computer system, so I'm free. I'm free from impurity. Now I'm vulnerable. Now, I thank God I only spent $1, right? But I thought that I know now, and I'm empowered to do anything. No, you just fell into a bigger slippery slope. Now there's even more wisdom you have to learn. How do you incorporate the two pieces? Then I found out the chip that I bought was an older version, which is fine, but the newer ones are compatible with the phone. So now what do? I got to buy a new. So again, it never ends. So people come out of the church, and the Noahide world will say, these people should be commended. They left idolatry. And then they'll get real sassy on Facebook. I don't know what you're teaching, but I left idolatry. No, you didn't. No, you didn't. Until you have properly rejected Shituf, you have not left idolatry. So again, it's the same thing. It's called like, I have a DAC for my music, so I'm an audiophile. I'm a professional music. No, you're not. You found one thing. You broke out of one husk. One. So this guy who left church broke out of one husk. He left the church. Thank God. Way to go. But that's just the beginning. For me, finding this DAC chip was a huge breakthrough for me because I saw immediate success. My computer, I fixed it. Just, in the back of my mind, these aren't like important things for me, but I fixed it. But then it opened my mind up to how many problems exist. And I realized I don't want to be an audiophile. I don't want, it's out of my pay grade. It's too much. So then you have to redo all your music files and the highest, and at that point it becomes, it's either your passion or not. It's not my passion. But if leaving church is your passion, and I think most people, it is. Right? Some things are everybody's passions. God, marriage, life, certain things everybody has in common. You can't say, well, I'm not too interested in living life. Yes, you are. The fact that God makes you stay alive, that's your passion. It's like George Carlin has a joke. He says, every day I wake up, I break my own personal record of consecutive days lived. So by the very fact that you're alive, it's a passion. One of the preparations for my trip was I wanted to get these straps. Again, this is what I got for China for $1. To bond things together, because I wanted to some of my little components on the airplane. I wanted to bond together so they don't slip around in my pocket. And again, these are the things I was working on the trip to make it just more, smooth. So I knew I was going to have a problem that it was like these straps with Velcro, and if you make it too tight, you run out of the Velcro to attach it. So I had to figure out, okay, I got to fix this. And I realized if I went to a shoemaker and they sew a Velcro on the opposite side of the Velcro, make it double-sided, you take it the other way, you never run out of the scotch, and then you can Velcro and make it smaller. So I try to explain this to my mother. She says, I don't care. I said, you do care because you don't understand it. By the definition that you don't understand something very simple means that there is an understanding. She just didn't get it. But I'm saying by the fact that you don't know something, you're admitting you care because just by definition you don't know the answer. Does that mean you have to make it a life mission to find? No, but once you admit you don't know something, then there's something called knowing, right? Not knowing leads to knowing. So everybody that is living, by definition, you are a vessel of wisdom. Because if you don't know and you're doing it the wrong way, then you're a vessel to improve and get it the right way. I remember working at restaurants as a kid, and they have a technique about how to put the silverware in the napkin, and then you use this part of your hand and you roll the napkin. Otherwise, you're one of those idiot kids that's like, real slow, and they get mad at you. And if you don't know how to roll silverware, my answer at 16 years old was, I don't care. And I was wrong. Because they're telling me there's a better way, and I'm saying I don't have the better way, and I don't care. That's ignorance. Because there is a better way. And when they taught me the way, it was actually kind of fun. Whoop, you can do like 1,000,000 of them. But everything in life, what are you going to say? Your dafka going to not do it the right way because you don't know the right way? Like in Judaism, they say, put your right shoe on first. And they'll say, I don't need that, it's just man's laws, and I follow God. Okay, are you going to go out of your way to put your left shoe on first? Just go out of your way? Like, okay, I'm not saying you have to, I always put my... No, but are you going to say, because there's a way to put your right shoe on, are you going to say, no, I put my left shoe on first? Just do what you do. At the very least, say, whatever happens, happens, but don't say, no, I'm going to continue with the left shoe. Now you made your own little law. So, anytime you do it wrong, and there is a right way, I'm not saying you got to be perfect, but at least acknowledge there is a way. So there is a way to leave the church. There is a way to leave Christianity. There is a way to improve your relationship with God. So now we get into the real heart of the discussion. So the Noahites will say, blah, 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 I left of idolatry. No, you didn't. Now, nobody wants to hear that. And I know I get in trouble when I tell people that. But did they? No. So, I know what they're trying to say. I don't do idolatry, I left it. Okay, I get it. I know. But in the world of wisdom, there's a way to do it and not a way to do it. Freestyling is an opinion. It's an opinion. It's guessing. It's denying wisdom. Right? It's like, again, when you ask a musical question, you go on the forums, online, everyone has their answer. Well, I think it's this or I think it's that. Don't tell me what you think. Tell me the answer. Everything belongs to a school of wisdom. There's always an indigenous sugya to whatever you're working on. And the reason why you don't know is because you are ignorant of the sugya. We all are. And that's why you're vulnerable. You come out of one thing and you think you made it. I left idolatry. No, you didn't. And so now you have to find the right way, and you're vulnerable because then people say, well, praise you. You left idolatry. You should be praised. Then there's a whole industry of this. And it's just not true. None of it's true. Then you get into, why do I need the rabbis to tell me how to leave idolatry? Well, number one, if you listen to your Noahide rabbi, it's a rabbi anyway. So now it's a contradiction. You turn to the rabbis, then you conveniently say, I don't need the rabbis. Number two, is your rabbi following the rabbis, or is he following his own opinion? Then you think that the Ger Toshav minority opinion is just an opinion. How many opinions are there? There's 2 opinions. But there's not. There's opinions until you find the sugya. When you find the sugya, then your question becomes, that's just the oral Torah. Are we obligated and bound and required to follow and trust the oral Torah? And isn't that a great question? Ultimately, that's where everybody stumbles. Everybody. Even when I was in yeshiva, the Jews stumble on that question. Because, I don't know. It's why? There's a billion reasons why. Why? You tell me. What? I want to hear. Let's hear your feedback. Why? And this is a great philosophical question. I ask it every day to myself. Why don't people trust whatever the oral Torah? What do you think?
I guess it's man-made.
Yeah. What do I care about what a bunch of rabbis said?
There's a lot of different opinions, sometimes Rashi will say that, the Rambam say so.
Yeah. Is that their opinions?
I don't know.
So now let's look at that. It's Ravasi's opinion. Okay? Right? Yeah. So is that true? Let's meditate on that for a second. Is that true? So Jacques had the opportunity to come to this is something that I've not publicized on Facebook too much because of our friends in the Noahide world. But in the last year or so, I've become on faculty in a yeshiva in Modin. So I always love that for Rabbi Katz is just some gear teacher. No, actually not true. Rabbi Katz doesn't teach Jews anywhere. Also not true. And so a lot of those untruths are easily refuted, but they don't know that. So Jacques came to a couple of my classes in Modin. One or two? One? A couple, just one.
Two.
Was it two? How was that two?
There's two.
You weren't there that long. With the guys.
Yeah.
So when I teach in the yeshiva, and this is kind of where I'm at in real time and space in my own personal learning, is I have completely, and I teach this, given up on attempting to understand the Torah. Completely. I've given up 100%. And I will tell you, it is not possible to understand the Torah. So when our friends like Moshe Shulman come and say, Katz doesn't understand the translation, it just means this and that, I 100% against that. Everything that you read, everything, is not an original statement from that rabbi. Nothing. Zero. It's all copy and paste taken from an earlier source. So by definition, when you have found something in text, you're already looking at the regurgitated version. And this is where one of our friends in the rabbinical world, I can just say, this is where Chaim and I disagree. I know Chaim has upset a lot of people in terms of creating confusion between what I teach and what he teaches. Is that there's no guessing in the language. You can't look at a rabbinic statement and then give an opinion, your opinion of it. Is it true? Is it good? Because you're already looking at what he copied and pasted from an earlier source. Until you get to the original source, you can't even have an opinion. Try telling a Jew that he can't have an opinion. And that's why our friends like Shulman and Kaufman and these guys are really upset. Because I'm telling them they don't have the right to an opinion. And they don't. Well, my rabbi doesn't think there is a ger. Your rabbi doesn't matter. Number one, you're asking your rabbi the wrong question, so I'm not even blaming your rabbi. I'm blaming you for asking the wrong question, and you're deliberately asking the wrong question. Well, Rabbi Katz teaches there's a Jubilee ger. Okay, we've been down that road, right? So the skill, there's a lot of skills, is to locate the source. Now, is that the only skill? Or there's something in Chabad Hasidus called Bittul Hayesh, self-nullification. I can look at all these words and I can convince myself that I know what these words mean. Right? Is that true?
You can, yeah.
I mean, but do I know what they mean?
You could not know, but you can convince yourself.
Right. So the trick is to constantly, when you find that you think you know what the word means, stop and admit to yourself you don't know. Because you have to remember, you're looking at a copy and paste. By definition, it was taken from somewhere else.
But isn't that, if I'm sorry for interrupting, but isn't, when you say that, copy and paste, isn't that exactly what oral Torah is? It's verbal copy and paste.
That's what it is. Right.
And when you say, you always say, look at the source.
Right.
But even the source is a
That's right. That's right. At that point, when you get it to the wherever it goes back to where you have it in writing, at the earliest stage, then you have to assume.
That's impossible.
No, in terms of where it became concretized in writing, but then you have to assume that source was copy and pasted before that. So ultimately, everything was copied and pasted. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So the Talmud is a collection, copy and paste. So you can say that it's wrong in your opinion, but to say that it's wrong because it doesn't make sense or this that's impossible from what you're saying. Because it's the wrong state. It doesn't fit what you're saying. It doesn't make sense. It's not one of the options. It's not A, B, C, or D, and that's one of the options. Because you're assuming that rabbi wrote that. He didn't write that. He received that. And it's all copied and pasted, which means you have to find the original intent. And you will find the original intent is never a true statement. It's a wisdom statement. And don't confuse wisdom and truth. A riddle is wisdom. It doesn't have to be true. So people think, we talked about this about a year or two ago. People think the oral Torah is true. It is not true. It is not meant to be a true document. True is, my name is David Katz. I'm from Dayton, Ohio. That's not what the Talmud is telling you. It's wisdom. It's like the Talmud says, if Mashiach comes from the living, his name will be David. If he comes from the dead, his name will be David. How is that a true statement? It's a riddle. It's not meant to be a true, factual statement. So then you have to ask yourself, what was the intention of the wisdom of the rabbi that coined that concept? So to say, no, that can't be true, because that's silly and it doesn't make sense. You're already wrong. It was never meant to make sense. So, yeah.
Could it be that the Talmud and Kabbalah is put in such a way to protect it?
It is. Ultimately, wisdom is protected. That's how wisdom is.
Because somebody that's call it foolish is going to look at it and just shove it away.
There's no Ger Toshav today. It's the same thing.
Take it apart and
That's
trying to convince you otherwise.
Right. Right. So that's what I'm saying. So to say that it doesn't make sense or silly is foolish, you're the one that's foolish because you didn't get it.
Yeah.
So that's where Chaim and I differ, and he's wrong. And he and I have been through this a million times. And he doesn't want to get the oral Torah on that level.
Rabbi, I must say, perhaps that's not right to do, but we've read in the Chumash, for example, there's also sometimes opinions and more than one, and then I would pick one. I would say, okay, I think I would pick this one.
Oh, commentaries?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's the thing. So that's a different question, an issue. Then you're looking at English. And one of my other rules I've taught over the years, English will deceive you every single time. Every time.
English deceives English.
Yeah, it does. Really, English is trafe. In terms of learning Torah, it doesn't work. Yeah, go proselyte. I don't know. It's like, what is a proselyte? I don't know. And then, it's amazing how the Noahites will have those discussions about the English language. And I repeat, it's almost like how some things are so silly in like the news, and people don't get it. And it's like, how can you argue this when it's so silly? I can't think of an example off the top of my head. But when they go into the English, when you tell them English is impossible to learn with Torah, and they'll criticize me as the bad guy. But I'm saying it's not possible. It's just on every level it's not possible. So you have to get into the language. Then you get the whole, well, I don't know Hebrew. Well, good, neither do I. Because learning Hebrew is not the answer either. Because if you think you know Hebrew, you don't. Why? Because it's copy and paste. The trick is to get into sourcing. Then you say, well, I could never know that. You're right. And you need a rabbi for that. And I'm not the only rabbi alive. And when I don't know the answer, I go to rabbis too. And so rabbis come in all shapes and forms and sizes, that your job is to get the question. Your job isn't to be the scholar. Even the rabbi's job is not always to be the scholar, but to ask the question. How you get the source, anybody can do that. You have to learn how to use your tools, use what you have. And I think the people that have worked with me closely over the years have learned, and again, to kind of go full circle, my job of imparting yeshivish wisdom is not to enlighten you with my opinion of what the Torah text is saying. That's if anything's a cult, that's a cult. My job is to empower you with the tools and teach you how the tools work and give you the tools, make myself available and accessible as a tool, and lead you to other successful tools.
Give us an example.
Of? What am I talking about?
Finding the source.
Finding a source or
Yeah.
a question or.
Okay, so one of my favorite examples is Rashi, right? So I'm looking here at in Bereshit 26, Parshas told us, and Rashi says a lot of things on this page, right? So let's look at the different options. I'll just point, anywhere randomly. This Rashi, whatever it says. If you were to learn that Rashi, what would you do? You would get your art scroll Chumash, right? And you would look. So what's the problem with that? With where you're at, you're
One opinion.
yeah. Well, it's the first step is you're going to get your art scroll Chumash and you're going to look at that Rashi and you're going to go on Facebook and you're going to argue that Rashi da 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 da. And I'm 100% not going to listen to you, believe you, and I'll be a brute about it. Why am I right and you're wrong? Like without any question.
Okay, but depends the text and the.
Right, but the number one,
Okay.
we would compare your English with my Hebrew 10 times out of 10. Your English will be radically deficient compared to what I'm reading in the Hebrew. Number one. That means the guy that translated your English did not stick to the text. That's rule number one.
Why is it there in the first place?
Huh?
Why is it there then?
Who?
That English?
The English? That's a good question. It's a total waste of time.
Really?
Ultimately, I mean, you make people feel good that they think they know it when they don't.
But then you confuse
But again, is
them.
it? Huh?
But you confuse them.
Yeah, but isn't that what Klippa is?
Yeah.
I'm single. I can go to a bar and meet somebody. Did I do anything? Or did I just create more problems for myself? Right? Every time that you go out of Klippa and with that little analogy that we drew, right? You think you're helping yourself. I thought I helped myself by getting that little cord. Did I help myself? No, I dug myself deeper.
At the time I left the church up until now, if there was no English translations, I would have been fluent Hebrew in all of it.
Right, so that's exactly. So you used it, and then you realized if I would have done it the right, it's a starting point, right? But then you realize it never actually got you anywhere. I learned in yeshiva over a decade, ger means proselyte. So what did it get me?
Confusion.
Confusion and a big ego. I thought I knew everything, like everybody else. So I knew a couple things, okay. But ultimately, if you want to really put the din and gauntlet down, your Chumash version of that Rashi, what percentage of it's correct? 0.
Okay, so it's better not to read.
That's the question. That then it becomes how you manage. I don't have the audio quality on this phone is not great. I attempted to solve it. I failed.
Now, what is great in the Bible then?
Wait, hold on one second. In my analogy, I failed on my phone, right? I thought I solved it. It could have been amazing. But then I found out that I failed. I'd have to get all kind of cables and da-da-da-da. So should I not listen to music on my phone? I can. But just know it's garbage.
They say you can also limp on one leg and still go
Right,
forward.
right. So but what I can't do is go on Facebook bragging about how amazing my phone quality is, and you should get a phone like me because I have the best phone and it sounds amazing. No, your phone doesn't sound amazing. You know, you have a phone. Thank God that it plays music, and you're not alone in this world. But don't go telling all your friends that you have to have a phone like me because I have the only phone in the world that plays music. No, it's not true. So the right perspective, it goes a long way. So what I think a lot of the people that study with me would do was they'll look in the English, and then you have to ultimately trust your senses. And what is that called in the 180 degrees rule in the church? What's that called again? Discernment. So the church says to discern. Like whatever I say it is, it must be. And what I'm saying is let it resonate with you where you'll sense the problem. Every time. When someone's lying to you, this is like a universal truth. When someone lies to you, you know they're lying. But you don't call them on it. You let them lie. See, there's a Saturday Night Live sketch years ago where this guy's like, so when I was doing business in China, I was doing business in China, and then when I did the $1 million deal, I bought 5 Mercedes. So it all gets like that. So I think especially in religion, it's a thing to lie. Why? Because of the ego, and when you don't know, and you don't know the discipline that comes with not knowing, you guess and you make it up. And it's not an evil crime. I just think it's an accepted bad behavior that goes unmitigated, and people lose patience. So the rabbi doesn't want to say, I'm going to stop and research this until I find it. And then people will get impatient and leave. So then there's a pressure, I don't want to lose the student, and I'll make up something slick that shuts you up and satisfies you, makes me look and sound great, and we can move on.
Can I just ask you something?
Yeah.
Shut me up and move on, because if I then read the Rashi, that's exactly what's happening. Satisfying me and shutting me up. And
In the English?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, but now this is the question.
Yeah.
If that text of Rashi that's in the English, are you saying if that was written in Hebrew, it would have had a different meaning?
100%.
So
Would it have a different meaning?
hold on.
I'm going to explain why in a minute.
But I'm moving on still.
Yeah.
So the English translation, say for instance in the Tanakh or the Chumash,
Yeah.
Rashi is defining that English translation, right? Well, seemingly.
Oh,
So
yeah.
how can we trust the English relation?
You can't. That's what I'm telling you.
What must we do? We can't read Hebrew.
This is where I'm at in the discussion. You have to trust you. When I'm lying to you, I expect you to know that I'm lying to you. Everyone lies to everybody. And you have to... This is why I'm not the most popular guy out there. I just don't like lying. I don't accept it. Because it doesn't work. And throwing it under the bus doesn't work either. And you have to be able to call it out. And not in an antagonizing way, but you have to know that something's not right, and if you really have to learn how to use your body and let the resonance work. And that's where I think me and Chaim disagree on meditation as well. Meditation is not the only version of meditation, but a big part of it is let life, energy, whatever, resonate with you and sit on it. Let it, don't move. Just let it sit. And let it work its way through. That's how a lot of things work. Right? It's like when you go to sleep at night with a problem, you will wake up the next morning with the answer. Just let your body is a wisdom machine. Let it do its thing.
You also then need the necessary skills to
The more you refine it, you get the skills to refine it.
yeah, and
But at the same time, if you're not skilled, are you useless? No.
No.
Even your body a novice level can achieve great things.
Yeah, but if your mind purges you, or he asks you basically to go to more resources and more rabbis to acquire those tools, because
so if your shower at home broke, there's a big difference between you trying to figure it out and Jacques trying to figure it out. You're going to struggle and try to figure it out. Jacques going to look at it and in 2 seconds what the problem is and going to fix it.
Yeah.
So that's them saying don't guess.
That's what I'm saying. If you're in your bubble, you can't just stay in your bubble. You can stay in your bubble, but Jacques is on that side. I'm on
Right,
that side.
right.
So you work out from your own bubble.
Yeah.
So
If you were smart, you would ask Jacques.
Right.
You know, you would recognize right away. I don't know. I can't know. I don't know enough to know. Let me ask someone that knows. Then you get a whole new different problem. This is one of my favorite new problems I'm thinking about these days. How do we know which rabbis know and which don't know? Oh, that's a juicy one, isn't it? How do we know? And that's just again. You gotta ask the question. And again, will you know if the rabbi's patting you on the head and lying to you?
Yes.
So then, why do you accept the answer?
That's what I'm saying.
And then you'll say, "But I don't have any other rabbis." That's your problem. You got to make it your business to go find that rabbi.
Exactly.
You say, "Well, I'm in South Dakota. I don't know any." Well, get on the internet, go find the. You got to seek it out. But then you get into the whole problem of Jewish politics and how do we navigate Judaism. So, what is the difference between a Chabad rabbi and a Breslov rabbi? Are there divisions in Chabad? How do I know what kind of Chabadnik I'm getting? How would you know? As I can point out right away, 9 times out of 10, who I'm getting. What happens if I see a Lubavitcher, a Chabadnik, 2 of them are in front of me? Let's say they're both in their 50s, 60s. One of them has writing Hebrew letters around his yarmulke, and the other one doesn't. What does that tell me?
One is trying to look.
Huh?
One is trying to look.
So the one with writing, it says Yechia Dunenu Marenu Merabenu Melech HaMashiach Le'olam Va'ed. Long live the King Messiah, may he live forever, in reference to the Rebbe. All right, we're not asking that guy any questions at all. Bless his heart. And he'll want to tell me everything, all the answers. And okay. And the other rabbi, there's more simanim to look into, but at least he's not a Mashiachist. Now, am I against the Mashiachists? I'm not against the Mashiachists. But what he's telling me very clearly in his Yamaha, so I call it yarmulke with Reuven, my son, Yamaha. He's an Israeli kid, 9 years old, and he thinks a yarmulke is called a Yamaha. Bless his heart, too. I'm just not asking Talmudics from a Mashiachist. You know, if you want to ask a Lubavitch question, the Mashiachist may be the right guy. But don't go asking, is there a Ger Toshav today from a Mashiachist? He's got his flag pin on his coat. Okay, you got to know who you're looking at. Are we judging this or that? But no, but he's a person. And that person is a real person, and he learns real things. And is there a Ger Toshav today is not one of the things he's learning. It's not in his curriculum. You can't ask a carpenter to know about quantum physics. Doesn't work that way. You got to use your noggin. You got to be in their field. Can he have an opinion? There's that word opinion. Yeah, you can have opinion. You don't want the opinion. So it's a daunting task to navigate this thing. But at the end of the day, you are empowered to find the answers. You're disempowering yourself by stopping the process short in you. So now when I read Rashi, am I reading what Rashi wrote? No. You're saying what?
You copied it somewhere else.
Yeah, so how would I know? Where I got it from?
You go back, and you go back, and you go back.
So first you have to convince yourself that this is like a rule that I've found. Whenever Rashi gets difficult in the language, and that's when you really want to make it up and guess, that's when you have to stop yourself and say, I don't know what he's saying here. And that's where the antagonists will come in every time. Oh, he can't even translate Rashi, this guy. So in yeshiva, I learned a really nice expression. Learn Rashi as a Rishon. That's a very powerful statement.
So what?
As a Rishon.
What is that?
So the medieval rabbis were called the Rishonim. So you think Rashi is your idiot friend in the Art Scroll Humash in the English language, telling you the beginner's kindergarten version. Then there's the attitude of Rashi was a great medieval rabbi with the likes of Ramban, Rambam, and all of the famous Rishonim. Why would you think he's kindergarten? He's a Rishon. So it's called Learn Rashi like a Rishon. It's like, Donald Trump is an idiot. No, he's the president of the United States. I don't care what level you think his intellect is. The guy has the button. Okay? He's not an idiot. You can't become a billionaire with a 747 jet and be an idiot. I don't care what plane. It doesn't work that way. You don't accidentally have an airplane.
Yeah.
Unless you zoom it.
Right. Yeah, but that's the thing is you can't say that even he's an idiot on the level of kindergarten, drawing crayons. So the Rashi is not drawing with crayons. He's a Rishon. So number one, you have to treat him like a Rishon. And you have to realize when I don't understand his words, what they out there want to say is that the problem is me, that I don't know enough, and then blah, 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 and your rabbi's deficient, this and that. No, that's what you're saying my problem is. Let me tell you what my problem is. I don't recognize the language, therefore I don't know where it's sourced from. And by definition, we all have that deficiency. And I'm admitting it on a deep level. I don't know. So let's find out.
I think the biggest problem is that people that come from the church has that engraved Greek mindset of I was right for so many years.
Right.
I am never wrong. Everybody else is wrong.
Yeah.
You can't see, I can see. And then you come out of it and you still want that mindset.
Right.
And now you're trying to press it onto everything that you learn.
Right.
And you never actually give yourself an opportunity to learn something new.
That's it. Like Moshe Shulman, who we all know from Facebook, he's been Haredi since he was born. And I'm sure he learned the translation of every Rashi. Ira told me that he told Ira that he's been learning Rashi for 30 years. Chumash Rashi. So that means he's worked out every translation in Rashi. It's useless. Because what he did was he didn't even learn it himself. That means his Rebbe, from his childhood, told him the translations every time. Well, we've all been educated, right? I don't trust my high school teachers, and I hope you don't either. Right? They told me growing up that Shakespeare was a beautiful English. Shakespeare is not beautiful English. And it was not created to be a beautiful English. Most of the English language was furthered by two projects: translating the Bible into English and Shakespeare contributions. So it's a component to the English language. Never was it meant to be. It could have beautiful elements, but that's not its function. It's not function to be beautiful. It's your English that you speak ultimately comes from Shakespearean English in some part of the chain. Why did they teach me that in high school? Why did they say, well, David, you're obviously not intelligent because you don't understand Shakespeare. 30 years later, well, guess what, lady? Neither do you. So I'm finding this out, and it's like, man, they never taught us this stuff. Why don't I know this? So everything I thought I knew about the English language is wrong. So in the last 3 or 4 years I've been studying on my own where English came from. It's a total misinformation.
True. I think another problem is time. We want everything now and we want everything perfect.
Yeah.
We don't see this life as a journey, and that we have the time that we have to grow closer to Hashem.
Right.
It's we want answers now.
Right. What does every kid in math get in math class? When will I have to know this when I'm older?
Yeah.
If they would just answer that question to kids, we'd be a lot better off. But no one ever gets the answer. How hard is it to give that answer? How many of you use math this week? Probably everybody, right? Is it that hard to tell a kid that? How hard is that? Not that hard. So, anyways,
And the more you know, the less you know.
that's it.
But, Rabbi, sorry.
Yeah,
I have to ask this question.
I have to answer it.
I hear what you say, and I sort of understand what you say.
Yeah,
The stuff is not always to be trusted. Sometimes you read the stuff and you say, this doesn't make sense.
Who?
This cannot be true. Rashi. And sometimes you read it and say, it makes sense.
who? Wait. Rashi says that?
No, I'm saying that.
You said it, Rashi. Yeah,
Sometimes you read Rashi.
yeah.
When you open the book, you open it with an open mind. You do not know what's really hidden in the passage.
Well, the bigger question is, when you think it makes sense, why are you so arrogant to think that it does make sense?
No, wait. Listen, I'm going to get to something. I
Yeah.
don't want to be long either.
Yeah.
You read the scripture, you realize that there's stuff hidden inside,
Right.
which you don't necessarily understand.
Right.
You listen to Jacques, he explains it.
Yeah.
Listen to you,
Yeah.
you explain it.
Yeah.
And then you touch Rashi as well for the fine-tuning of understanding.
Yeah.
Right? Now you telling me that tool must go away.
And I'm saying something even different, false deeper point from what you're saying.
So yeah?
So you're saying when it doesn't make sense, and I'm saying based on what you're saying, yeah, when you think it makes sense, that's the bigger problem.
I'm not necessarily thinking
No, I know, but when you think he makes sense, that's a bigger problem than when you think it doesn't make sense. Because when you think it makes sense, that's you convincing yourself that you think you know what it's saying.
You want to know what it says. Yeah, I hear you.
Yeah.
Okay, but now, I understand what you're saying to me, but you're suggesting that tool must fall away.
Exactly.
Then you must give us...
That it never makes sense.
Then you must...
Rule number one is it never makes sense.
What I'm saying is that you must give us the tool then.
I'm getting there. We're getting there. Hold on. We're going to get to the punchline in a minute.
We're missing...
I'm going to tell you now. Hold on.
I mean, we as normal people now to walk the right path.
That's it. So this is
is
where we're... Hold on.
This
is where we're going tonight.
We're going to... we get our answers because everything is wrong.
We're getting there. Hang on.
This rabbi talk nonsense, that rabbi talk
Exactly.
nonsense.
So I think where I drive people nuts...
I go back to the church because the same story go on there.
Right.
There also same story. This one is right, that one is right, this one is not right.
So hang on. So I think where I drive people crazy online is that, and I have in mind...
I must go back to my Afrikaans Bible, I think, because there that's the best for me. Because I find the truth in that simple Afrikaans Bible.
That's the Hebrew language, no?
So hang on. So there's one of my favorite bloggers that it's particularly nasty is Palm Tree of Devorah. Again, with a lot of history, me and her, from before this work. But anyways, what drives her nuts is that when I take seemingly very clear aspects in Torah, and then I turn it to where then I claim that it's unclear. And she'll say, and other people will say, Katz is wrong because he's making issues that don't exist. He's making things that are clear, unclear.
Okay.
How do you say convert in Hebrew? Ger. So I don't know what Katz is on about. Everybody knows convert is ger. Is it?
No.
So then they'll say, okay, Jacques, 1421 is the one place in the Chumash where Katz is right, where ger is not a convert. But did you look up every ger reference in Tanakh? Oh, you didn't? I did. And guess how many are convert? Like maybe one. At this point, I'm not even sure if there's one. It's always at least both, and most of the time, it's not a convert. So it's a complete a surprise to people how ger is not convert, and then I'm flipping it to where what you thought you understood, I'm telling you, you don't understand any of it, none of it. So to the point where whenever I see ger in any rabbinic writing, then you're going to say that I'm saying it's automatically ger non. I'm saying no. I'm saying I don't know. I've learned to know that I don't know until I look at the context, and then I'll see what it is and identify the sugya. So what I'm saying, Emmanuel, is that when you think you know, that's when you're in the most trouble.
Makes sense. I understand.
Yeah, and it's the easiest trap to fall into when you think, oh, well, that makes sense. That's where it doesn't make sense. That's where you're really, really in trouble. It's where you have to throw out the whole thing. So that's when, I mean, you see me teach where I'll start to like, lose it, and then I'll start to lie and make it up, and then I realize I'm lying, and then I just stop. And again, we all go through this, you know. And then you know when the wheels or the training wheels are coming off. You know that, and then by the time you're wobbly, then you have to. Again, it's that resonance. You have to address, why do I feel so unsure of myself? Why am I so wobbly? Obviously, I don't know what's going on anymore. And that's when you stop, throw it out, and then you say, all right, roll the sleeves up, and then you got to go to work. And if my people in my class have a problem with that, that's their problem. If they don't want to come back, that's their problem. And if people on Facebook are upset, that's their problem. And I don't care about any of you from that point on. I have a personal crisis with God that I need now on my avodas Hashem, which I'm a person too. I need to find out what's going on here because I don't know. I mean, isn't that an honest, safe approach? I don't care about you. Why should I care? You know, I was here for you, but then I came into a crisis, right? My relationship with God was severed. And if you're here listening to me, how can I teach you? So if you want the answer, and at least you have a reason to think that maybe I can know, then let me go to work and find out, then I'll tell you. It's very simple. And if I don't know, and you've heard me say in class, okay, I don't know. We got to come back to this next week and we'll find out.
I understand now what you're saying about the minute you think you know,
Yeah.
you don't know.
Exactly.
Because that's when you build a new religion.
Exactly.
The minute you say, this is it, I understand it, it's
Yeah.
done and dusted.
That's it.
That's when you
Because
start
what is your new
building.
religion? You're guessing, you're giving your opinion, you're denying the sugya. What you're saying so arrogantly is, I know what this is, and there's no sugya to this. Do you really think about that? Think about that. You're saying that there's no story. Nothing comes like that in this world.
But at what stage will you know that I'm actually getting it now?
So that's what I'm going to say now. So then you stop. That's when you got to really reinforce in your mind. Cut it out. I mean, you got to be tough with yourself. Knock it off. I don't know. Then you got to zoom in, and you got to really look, and then you got to realize, I'm not getting it because it's a sugya somewhere else. It was copy and paste. And there's no on button. You'll never go in life and figure out, all the time, oh, that's me doing that again. You always got to beat the shituf out of you. Every time. That's shituf. You're making it up. You're making your religion. And you always have to get rid of shituf. That's the deeper reason why the Noahide is wrong, who says, I left idolatry. No, you did not. There's no such thing as an off button. Oh, idolatry for me is turned off. No, it's not.
It's a
Constant.
There's no hope for the Noahide.
What's that?
There's no hope for the Noahide.
Well, they make it hopeless because they say, we've done it, we fixed it. I have a rabbi, he knows everything. I left idolatry, I left the church, check. I've done everything. Yeah, they've done everything. They think they're done. They literally think they're done.
Actually, they make it so easy that they think they're finished.
Right, and then the rabbis tell them, hey man, you've done it. You're done. And it doesn't. And what's problematic with ger is, and this is what drives people nuts, is we're never done. Every day I discover more about ger. Every day. And I teach it new, and there's no definition to ger. Ever. There's always deeper levels and more sort. You're never done. And that really bothers people. I don't know. I do.
think people are looking for an ideal, and you never get an ideal.
You never get it. It's like a golf swing. You got to work on it every day. You never, ever, ever, ever perfect
The more
this.
you practice it, the luckier you get.
That's it.
Mindset.
It's a struggle.
You start off with saying, I don't know.
That's it. God is a struggle. God is not a struggle when God is Shituv. Right? So what the problem is, God will concretize himself in Shituv for you if you want it. So whenever I'm broke, then I know certain friends just give me money. Well, what you're really saying is I exploit my friends. Because you're saying the world gets concretized, and so I call that trusting in God, blah, 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 make my religion. And so now you've made me enslaved to you, that when you go into your predicament, I have to now serve you. And again, we all know this, right? So when this person is upset, now I have to console them. Okay, if I want to do that from free will, then it's a struggle. It's a relationship. Once you concretize all of your relationships, me, then you got to give me this and you got to give me that, and then ultimately God will give me that because I'm in the place that I get to where God always gives me stuff. That's a big slippery slope. Whenever I'm not worried because whenever I get to this place, God always gets me out of this, and guess what? God will get you out of it. But that's a horrible place to be, because now you'll get out of it, but you're going to get a knowledge of God that comes from Shituv. Whereas if you don't label God in that position, then you constantly have to struggle to maintain the relationship and the connection. So it's much more frustrating. But why should you be Hamish with God? Why should God be your best buddy to help you out? God doesn't owe you anything, and you have to constantly reignite the relationship, because the pathway to salvation with God always changes, because you're not in the same position every time. You're not the same. So as long as you think it's the same, you stay the same. Now you're the Greek concretized version of yourself. Oh, well, this is how I always get. So therefore, this is how I always get. Think about that. You have to, you know this is how I get. You know this is how I am. Well, you're just concretizing yourself. So now you're not growing. And so again, you see the story. So once you knock it off, then you have to look for the signs in Rashi, for example, and there's always signs of wisdom to find the answer. Now, let's take a little small digression. What are the signs? And let's use life analogies. God gave man wisdom. It's just one of those things. You're never ever without wisdom. So here's an example. I used to make a chicken curry for Shabbos, and I'd pull the lid off, and there's a little tab, and I would always pull the tab and rip it, and so I have to stab it with a knife. And I thought, why would they make such a stupid bottle that you pull it and it rips and it never works? What's the answer?
Impatience, something.
When you look under the label, now it's a red lid, and you would think they would have made the arrow a different color, but in a different, slightly shade of red, there's an arrow telling you which way to pull the tab. When you pull the tab the right way, guess what happens every time?
Opens up.
It opens up. So for how long was I going, But if the tikkun is look for the wisdom, because it's always there.
Yeah.
Always, there's signs. Always.
Hashem also hides stuff from you because you're not ready for it.
That's the wisdom. It's always there, but it's beyond your perception. And when you grow, then you realize.
And then you want to beat yourself up.
Right.
Because now you know something you wish
So
you
when
knew
I
earlier.
bought my computer, theoretically, could I have, if I have known 3 years ago, whatever it was, to buy the one with the higher version DAC? No. Yes. No, theoretically. Well, when I was at Best Buy, in 2015, and I bought my computer, right? Again, just for an analogy's sake, could I, again, this is not how they sell computers, but imagine if it was, right? Could I theoretically, and from what I know now, have bought the model, this is the one I should buy because it comes with the top-notch DAC, and I play music. This is obviously the computer I should buy, right? And what did I do? I bought the cheaper one with a junkier DAC, so now I wasted my money. But was the DAC there the whole time? Yeah. And it was camouflaged. And so all those little jargon terms, Iker terms on the thing, when I said to myself, I don't need to know what that stuff is, no, that's you being ignorant and denying wisdom.
And you didn't ask the right questions.
Didn't ask the right questions. Yeah. So when I said, hey, that's a pretty good computer, why should I buy that? And he's like, the guy says, well, because it runs real fast. You want a fast running? Yeah, I want the fast. Okay, then that's your computer. But you didn't say, well, actually, I don't really need a fast computer. My needs are pretty simple, but I do like to listen to music. Could you point me to the direction of the one with the high quality DAC player? How many guys go to Best Buy asking the sales rep that question? Nobody.
Yeah. That's why you need to do research.
That's it. And they'll say, well, I don't know about that. And you say, well, can you ask the guy that knows? Yeah. Well, he's not working today. Yeah. Well, can you get out the manual and find out? I need to know what kind of DAC player is in this computer. Now, think about that. No one's going to know that answer.
Hindsight makes perfect sense.
Huh? Right. But to find, if you were to find out what kind of DAC, good luck. Because it's not going to be in any of the first level manuals. So just like there's no Ger Toshav today, the things they do tell you, you probably don't need to know. But the things that you personally want to know, they're not telling you. And you'll say, well, no one cares about that. Well, because you're educating the world not to care. But most people probably, if they knew, they would want to know. You know, most people listen to music on their computer, and they don't even know that it doesn't sound good. If they knew, it'd be a very simple fix. So now in the Rashi, you start to look for the signs, and in certain versions of Rashi, the printer, I call it printer's wisdom, will quote the source where Rashi came from. So now we have another issue, a new bottleneck. So now I've left I listened to Rabbi Katz and I left the English world behind, and I'm only buying Hebrew, and Rabbi Katz is wrong because it's still not working. What's the problem? Which version of the Hebrew did you buy? So you thought it didn't matter, and you bought the junkiest version today. So I learned this at the Johannesburg airport this morning. So I brought this. This is the Mikras Gedolos in one version. So this is my moron man mode, right? I'm getting ready to leave the house, and I thought, I had these books I wanted to read on the airplane. Then I thought, there's this project that I've been working on, and it requires the Mikras Gedolos, and I have like a nice print at home, 5 volumes, but I'm not taking 5 volumes in the plane. So I thought, you know what, I got this one like free, and it's good enough for the job, I'll take it with me. And I realized on the plane, this is partly why I suffered last night, right? Because I'm like, this print is horrible. I really, at 1 a.m, flying on a plane, was not in the mood. So what did I do at Joburg? When I got on the internet, I said, okay, we got to search for good print, Chumash Mikras Gedolos 1 volume. And I sent myself the link to buy that volume when I travel. Right? It's a luxury item for most, but think about it. Next time I fly, I'm going to have a really nice print, 1 volume, Mikras Gedolos. The difference is, I would have been learning great last night versus I wasn't that interested to learn. That word is called cheshik. Cheshik is niceness. And then we're trained, physicality is not good, we shouldn't have nice things. Do you want to listen to junk music? You say to yourself, I like music, but yet I don't like listening to music in my house. What's the problem? And then you don't realize your DAC is garbage. So if music is what you want more of in your life, then you need to have a DAC. if you want flowers in your life, and you wonder, I don't like the flowers. Well, did you ever think you're going to the dodgiest flower store on the way home from work? Why didn't you go to a nice flower store? Everything you want in your life, you have to choose klippa or holiness. And you think because, well, I'm a cultured person who likes flowers. No, you're just vulnerable now to go to the dodgiest flower store in the world. Before you had no flowers, now you have dodgy flowers. So everything is this. I realize I like music, but I go for bad music players. So what the person enveloped in only physicality, he goes to the store and they say, well, did you think about buying this great DAC player? And he's thinking, I don't even like music. And he's like, well, you need to have that if you're going to have blah, 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 blah. Oh, here, well, let me take my money because I just like to spend money for no reason. Now, that's obviously not what we want to do. But where your interests are invested, you have to have nice things. Because it doesn't help your cause to have wisdom and then throw it out the window. So I'll teach with an analogy. Watch this. Wait, I can't do it. Can you put in the password for this?
What is it?
It's like a carpenter or a craftsman that buys bad tools.
Right. So for that analogy, I have a really nice cordless drill, and when we moved, my mother lost the charger. So I went to the hardware store thinking that they would sell me the charger, and they don't carry this brand in the store. So he's like, well, it's your lucky day. If on sale for 100 shekels is this cordless drill. And I don't know, I'm going on this trip. I really don't have money to blow on things I don't need right now. And the guy who was a customer was like, man, you don't want that. So he's like, it won't even get you one usage out of it. So you can say, well, who am I to have a nice drill? On the other hand, should you buy the wrong one 5 times until you realize you need a good one? If you're a person who drills, you need a nice drill. It's that simple. Too often we're told, be a minimalist. Right? Now, so if I have no use for a drill, and then one time I needed it, and I bought a $5,000 drill, that's a little extreme. Right? But if you're going to use it, then you need to get something that has cheshik. So this book, we on? So I'll give you a nice little teaching analogy. Watch this. Hold on. When I bought this, was from the used section of the store, and it's thought they have a great used bookstore. And I thought for like 5 shekels or whatever it is, obviously I'll get this, right? And it served its purpose. But I wasn't flying to Cape Town back then either. 1 second. I'll show you. This is... all the signs are coming up. Okay. Okay, this is the funniest scene ever.
Statistiekjes of zo. Ja, Migos, sorry.
All of them.
No.
Give me all of them.
This is very apropos to Cape Town, I guess, right? So the analogy is, when you have wisdom, and God gives it to you, don't be like Chevy Chase, and just throw it to the wayside. And that when you have when God gives you wisdom, and He gives it to everybody, that's another thing that people don't realize. Everyone has it. So you have to cultivate it and invest in it and make it part of your life. You can't just throw it away because you think, who am I to have nice things? And we're not saying spend a lot of money, right? It's just you have to, like you're saying, have the right drill, right? And you have to know what your needs are. And when you have a need, you have to address that need. So when I got this for 5 shekels in the used store, it was just to have around the house, Migros Gedolos in one version, one volume. But learning on an stuffy LOL plane at 1 in the morning, I really don't need to be squinting my eyes trying to figure this thing out. The difference is I could have had great learning last night if I would have had a nicer version.
It's the same as your job. You can love something and have the wrong equipment and end up hating it.
That's it. And I was not having fun last night. I thought I was beating myself up. I was trying to figure it out with you all day. What was my problem? Now I know. If I would have had a great book last night, imagine this. You're getting on the plane. It's going to be a graveyard shift, okay? But at 9 and 10 o'clock at night, with a great print, man, it would have changed everything. Everything would have been different. I would have had a love affair with the book, the Cheshik. I would have had a desire. I want to look at it. Do you want to look at this? I don't. It's horrible. It's horrendous. This is worth all 5 shekels that I spent on it. That's about it. It's a horrible book. But this is the one that you're going to get when you don't know that you have a need and you have wisdom, this and that. So you got rid of the English and you got in the Hebrew, and you still didn't get anything. I tell the boys in the yeshiva that they owe me a lot of money because I invested a lot in my teaching. Why? Because I'm afraid that they'll lose patience. So when I teach, obviously I use my tablet a lot. And I went to dafyomi.org to show them a Gemara. And it turns out the print on their Gemaras are so bad that in Hebrew, Rashi's script, a samach and a mem can look very similar. And the difference is there's a word, either keres or kerem. Kerem is a field, keres is a stomach. And they left off the tail of the letter, and I got the wrong word. And I went on a whole thing of trying to explain the wrong word. And then I found out that the reason why I didn't understand any of this was I was making up my own ideas because I couldn't source it because I didn't have the right word. So I told them, you guys owe me money because of you. I have a new system, a new policy. Whenever I go into a teaching that's halfway interesting, I stop the equation, go to the ArtScroll app, and I buy for $1 the page of ArtScroll. So if I spend even $10 a month, is it worth it? And it's a beautiful print every time, top quality. I will never ever be burned by that again. I'm not going to let it happen. Because I went the easy way out. Right? Free, online, dafyomi.org, and I got what I paid for. Free, garbage, nothing. So a lot of people say on the internet, why should we pay for what Rabbi Katz is doing when there's a billion classes on YouTube for free? Well, that's what you're getting. You're getting garbage.
You're wasting your time.
It is.
Your life.
Right. And is it about that I want to make all this money? No. I mean, I'm investing my money in this thing. I mean, it's an investment for everybody to get involved. Who's paying me for the upgraded version of this? Are you going to pay for it? Who's paying for it? I'm paying for it. Right? And I expect you to pay for it. I expect you to go get your own books. I expect you to get internet access. Whatever you need to do. Or whatever craft it is. Get your drill. Get what you need. So if learning is what you do, then you need to... It's not about spending money or not spending money. Get your tools. Polish your tools. Sharpen your tools. Keep your tools. If your tools are free, then get good free tools.
Know what makes you tick as well.
What's that?
Know what makes you tick.
Exactly. Right. What makes me tick is looking at a beautiful print. That's what makes me tick. So maybe, is there a free app with great Talmudic print somewhere? Maybe. I'm willing to spend the $1. If you can show me for free and save me my $1, I'll take it. But I'm saying I'm willing to spend $1 on that experience. So again, your problem is you're going to go out and get the Hebrew like I did. Did you do anything? No. I struggled all night long in this book, and again, it burns me. Just like with the boys it burns me. How much did I struggle with you today trying to figure this out, right? I could not figure out my problem. And I take these trips very seriously, and I did not want to listen to music on the plane and learn. And I'm saying, is that a problem with me? And I was grumpy on the plane. Not that it didn't show to anybody, but I didn't want to be there. And I could not figure out the bottleneck. But again, now just by talking it out, and I can even show you the link, I set myself the link to buy the book when I get home. And now I know that will fix it. 100%. Because I know how I tick. I love looking at a beautiful Hebrew. It's like I call it love the book. I'm sure we all have things that we like to look at in our home and the things in your life. Whether it's the flowers on the table or whatever it is.
The crocs.
The crocs.
Or understanding what your wife likes.
Also, that's it.
Versus what you like.
That's it. That's it. I call it, with Sonia and I work on these things, so I call it the high-end wisdom. It doesn't mean you have to go and buy elaborate things. But there is something called yofi, the niceness of the home. And everyone, because you are built with wisdom, like I used to think, shouldn't we eat like food capsules instead of meals? Why are we so indulgent? And then the answer is, did you ever think God wanted you to cook and have a meal and put flowers on the table as the human experience? You shouldn't feel guilty because you put salt and oregano on your chicken. You know what I'm saying? Like, taste. Right? God made you that way. And then you start to realize when you get good at life that the best things don't even cost that much. The book that I'm going to get the replacements, how much does it cost? 85 shekels. You don't have 85 shekels? That's a sandwich. Just don't eat the sandwich. Buy the book. Right? If you're telling me you don't have 85 shekels, you're a liar. You know what I'm saying? At that point, you're a liar. Everything you need, you have the money to buy. God gave you the parnasa for your needs. You will find the priority to get what you need on the nicest level that you need it for. And you don't have to sacrifice and go for garbage. Don't get your Torah on YouTube. It is garbage. Unless you find, if you want to navigate the free world, again, I could probably find my book for 60 shekels. Okay. Well, I give up. I'll settle for 85. All right, so now when you get the good book, what will you find in the good book? The printer will take the time. What you're saying is, I want a good print book because I hate garbage and I hate being burned. So I went to dafyomi.org, and because they put a misprint or bad print, whatever it was, they sold me the wrong product. And you got what you paid for. It was free. Right? That the person who's in charge of dafyomi.org never thought to put a good product on there, which means, is dafyomi.org for somebody that wants to learn accurately? No. Are you somebody that wants to learn accurately? Yeah. So then don't go to dafyomi.org. So therefore, they'll take out all the kinks in the prints. So one of the biggest problems in Torah is the problems. It is always going to happen. It's not like a rare occurrence. Wrong page number, misspelled words, wrong source. On average, every page you'll find a problem. All the time. So now you're concerned about the English. I'm saying the guy who wrote it in English probably didn't take out the bottlenecks from his own work. So he's already corrupted.
Where's the problems in the Torah?
What's that?
What is the problems in the Torah?
With the Torah itself?
Yeah, I mean, they say, every rabbi will say it's divine.
So I'll tell you why.
No.
I'll tell you why.
But now we got maybe...
But here's the thing. If you want to boil down Judaism on one foot, this is something that I've been working on for a while. What was the greatness of Moshe Rabbeinu? of the many. I'll tell you what I have found in my experience, and from what I understand. Remember, this is a book. I don't care how holy or not holy you think it is. It's still a book. Moshe Rabbeinu was the greatest publisher of all time. Meaning, he knew how to make a divine book. That's what it is. That's why it's divine. He made the most fantastic book possible.
Okay, but did he write the Torah?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, it doesn't matter if you want to say from prophecy, God, this and that. The Torah, if you want to take out all the commentary, it's just text, right? Mm-hmm. Did Moses write that text?
No.
That was received as a tradition from Shem and Aver before. So Moses was the accumulator of all the wisdom in the world. Imagine all the little wisdoms in the world, right? Moshe Rabbeinu was the guy who went and mastered wisdom. You can imagine that now, right? He was the guy who you can trust. At the hardware store, there's the one guy that knows every sugya of hardware. So we know the concept exists. Right? There's the scientist that knows all the science stuff. That's what Mike and Russell call it, the Metatronic thing, right? We know that there's greatness in the world. We know that. People are great. They know everything in their field. Moshe was one of those guys. He knew wisdom.
I believe that.
What?
We are limited to that book.
But what Moshe did was he gave you a systematic code of Torah that is codifiable, sourced.
Okay.
You see words. What Moshe wrote was a codification of wisdom. Now, once you have on that level, it's divine.
The codification.
Because he was so great at the codification.
That's like saying.
He was absolutely gifted.
So now
Obviously.
we must decode it.
Well, no, absolutely not. What I will say, have you guys ever seen a fantastic lawyer displaying his skills? I had to get my kids' passports. So I had to go to this lawyer. He was a horrible guy, but he was one of those guys, he knows every stamp, every form, boom, 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 right? It was a pleasure to see him working. He knows everything. Everything. He's a genius of the bureaucracy and the government, right? He knows it all. So as much as he was a nasty guy, was there a certain level of geschmack? Geschmack is like the joy of working with him. Because I know when he says, come back next week with an A4 form, is he right? 100%. Is there any way I'm not going to get my passport? 100%. He knows. So I'm sure you've all worked with experts in a field. They might not be good people all the time, but it's a certain enjoyment because the wisdom is verifiable. It can't go wrong. Wisdom is true. Now we said there's a difference between truth and wisdom. But wisdom never fails. Right? Planes don't fall out of the sky. They just don't. No, technical problems, whatever. But the wisdom of flight is a bona fide wisdom. Planes don't just fall. And the world is built with wisdom. And it never fails. It's God's creation. Moshe Rabbeinu knew the publisher's wisdom how to make a book. Sourceable.
Why did Moses tell God, then take me out of your book?
Why not? He got mad at God.
The book that you gave.
Yeah, he got mad at God.
Mm-hmm.
He was mad at God. But it doesn't take away. It doesn't take away that Moshe was chosen. Moshe was chosen at that time because he was the guy who had the wisdom. Torah is always oral. Why is the Torah written in one generation only? That it's authoritative for all time? Because Moshe was the guy. What is the Messiah? The Messiah concept is the concept of the personification of any one thing. Right? So who was the Messiah of basketball? Michael Jordan. Right? Whatever argument's sake, right? Every wisdom has a Messiah. It can't not.
Yeah.
There's the fulfillment of the wisdom when they finally have perfected it, right? So the Messiah of all Torah is Moshe. To the point where his Torah was no longer oral. He gave you the oral in the written form.
It wasn't a thought anymore.
What's that?
When you try and make something perfect, it's thought, it's fiddling with it until eventually you put it down.
Right, and so that when you know the Torah well enough,
So it was first oral and then written.
there's always oral. The fluke is that Moshe brought all the oral into a written.
The shorthand written.
Right.
So we gave him that oral.
There's always oral. There's never not oral. Moshe's job was to learn all the oral Torah in the world, and he was able to put it in a codified written. Again,
You're talking about the first 5 books now.
no, I'm saying the world only has wisdom in it. Think of a hardware store in Cape Town, okay? That's all oral Torah at that hardware store. There's no official book of Bob's hardware store. Imagine if there was a Messiah of Bob's hardware store here in Cape Town. Okay? Think about it. Can you all think of the hardware store in town? It's like a zoo, right? But imagine if someone knows that hardware store so well, they could actually write a book that would make sense, consolidating all that wisdom into one simple book. Would that be an amazing book? Think about that. All the screws and nails and hammers and then in one divinely constructed book.
Can I say something?
Yeah.
If I want to go buy a nut and a bolt or something like that, I don't need to read the entire book. I just go to the guy.
That's right.
source,
You rely on the oral
and I'll
Torah.
ask him.
He knows the sugya. He says, what are you building? You say, well, here, I don't know what it's called. Here's my smartphone. It's that. Give me that.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, here, go over there. You never learned anything. You just relied on his wisdom and his oral Torah. But imagine, the internet is like a great book. Why? Because the hyperlinks and the connectivity. Imagine if a hardware store had a divine website where all the interlinkings, like Wikipedia, you can get a PhD on Wikipedia just by following the links. Imagine that and more is Moshe writing the Torah. So the problem you have, whoever you are, is you see text. But we already said that's you making that up. If you learn the text, then you see Moshe is copy and paste. So what was the project that I was learning on the plane last night, for example? What's that?
That you need glasses.
Huh?
That you need glasses.
That's what you do. You need glasses. Because when you see it from a distance and out of focus, then it just becomes religious jargon, text, blah, blah, blah. So when you zoom in on Moshe Rabbeinu's Torah, you start to appreciate the divine quality. Because you start to see that the words have meaning.
Okay, but why did God then every time tell Moses, and told Moses, okay, go to the people and tell him they must do like this?
What's your question?
I mean, Moses, you said Moses wrote the Torah.
Yeah, but no one like he's saying it's the Cliff Notes.
But it was from God.
This is the Cliff Notes. This is just the sourcing. You know what this looks like in Moshe Rabbeinu's eyes? Avodah Zorah 64b, Gittin 63a. He's just sourcing. This is not actual literature. This is not content. This is not Shakespeare, who's a beautiful, good read. This is a horrible read. This is not this is not a book that you read for fun. This is nothing but sourcing that actually makes sense. It's so well sourced that you can read it like a book. You won't get very far. But at the same time, there's no direction. There's no forward, backwards, which way. It's divine sourcing. He brought all the world's wisdom, brought it into a divine book, because you're trying to explain reading this and getting like an enlightenment out of it. No. Moshe wrote it so that there could be one day a Rashi to write on that and tell you the source within it. Meaning the Torah builds. Moshe is the foundation. He's not the end. We want to source Moshe. We don't want to read and understand Moshe. Only at the very end, when you've learned the oral that came out of the written, which was derived from the oral, then you go back and you read the written, and you realize the fantastic nature that it contains all the oral. Yeah, it's just infinite depth. It's like last night I'm working on this project of every time the word mitzvah, or the context of mitzvah, is in the Torah, I'm going through each time that it says mitzvah to try to understand what does Moshe Rabbeinu mean by the word mitzvah. It's not, and here's a little clue. It's not what we thought. Right. It's not what we thought. It's not what we thought. That's why I learned my lesson. You can't do a project that rich with print this horrible, because you're putting a garbage DAC in a music player. You want to get richness and depth out of the language, but you're looking at a garbage language because the print itself is garbage. So if you're not interested in the language, then the print doesn't matter. But you can't be interested in the language and then look at a bad print. It doesn't work. Just like the music. I'm not blaming you for buying a bad computer, but don't try to ask yourself, why is the music not good? When you know it can't be good, you bought a bad machine. You just didn't know that you wanted a good machine. I didn't know I wanted a good machine. Now I know. Now I know. If you're going to get proper study, you have to have good print on every level.
I think our biggest problem is we're all trying to be plumbers and we're not plumbers.
Okay, but I can...
We're trying to go into the Torah.
Yeah, right.
From we now a rabbi.
Yeah.
And we're going to be...
I have my art scroll Humash, and I can do it from rabbi in the English. Yeah.
Okay, but one other thing is you can have the best print everything.
Yeah.
If you not seek, like the Bible say, with your whole heart.
Yeah.
And you want to learn, and you.
Then you're just one of those guys that buys the expensive version, and you never even once looked up the sources that they brought you in the expensive version. What you're saying is, now that you have the good version, now I expect you to go look it up. Go search it out. He tells you where it's at. So that's the thing is you can't just say, well, I only buy the best. Then you're even worse off than the other guy. So when you do have the good print, and they always do bring the sources, then you have a new problem. Then you have to go buy more books. Because now when you have a source and you don't have, then you have to say, do I build my collection? Then you say, am I the kind of guy that has a collection? And you say, am I that person? And again, life treats us all the same in certain things. Some of us have things in common, no matter who we are. Does anybody here not have a bed?
Everybody's got a bed.
Everyone's got a bed.
And a chair.
So by definition, we all should be interested in bed wisdom. Nobody can say, well, I'm not that interested. No, if you have a bed, you're interested. Because there's going to be issues with your sleeping, this and that. You will need bed wisdom at some point in your life, if you're human. You cannot get out of it. You don't have the excuse, well, I don't really care. You're a liar, you do care. So, you start to learn what we have in common, what you need. Everybody is not a rabbi, but like a scholar. You know how like they say like back in the 1700s, every man had a library, because that it's essential. It's part of life. It's like today everybody has a TV. Well, it used to be everybody had a library. So what you're doing, getting into the Torah, is you're getting into TV as a library. It's the same thing. You're getting your information from a TV. It's the same thing. So the hard copy version looks like books.
Okay. I get it.
So you have to eventually go out and buy more books. And that's one of the things that we focus in on the yeshiva and in the study groups that I have. And I think this may be in at least co-chair with a 1A spot, and what I hope to convey in GSS is building people's libraries, building their content, getting people to share content, study content together, building the Ger genre. And basically, I think if I had it my way, I want to see Ger in the world where we are a book community. We share books. When we're done with a book, we have like a website where we can circulate the books. We talk about books. That's where me and Chaim ultimately will never, ever, ever see eye to eye. He hates books. And my rule number 1 is love the book. And that will never be solved.
I think something which you said about you start with one book and you need to build on that.
Yeah.
It's the same as somebody that's in a profession. When you start in the profession, you have one rule.
That's
By
it.
the time you're doing it for 10 years, you have 50 different
Right.
rules.
That's why Torah is not separate from your life. This is you. You all do this all the time. That's why I'm saying I'm not here to give you God. You already have it. All I'm here to say is that the God you have in your life, this is no different. So just make it one.
I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
What you're saying is the famous cat saying, get out of moron mode.
That's it. That's what it is. That's it.
It took me a long time to get that down.
That's it.
Study that book outside of moron mode.
That's it. And so I know it's a big learning curve. I'm here to help, but you can build a library. You can have a library. Then there's employment for Jews. What is that? Start redoing English, and don't try to give someone a translation. Try to be able to give them an English version that at least points them where they need to go in a more direct way. You know, like when you translate it, at least put down a footnote. This could be this or that. Look in this book, and then people in the antagonizing world get mad because the genre that I'm promoting is not good English, it's not proper English, it's not even English. I know. I'm not trying to be English. Wisdom is not truth. I don't teach truth. We're teaching wisdom. And by wisdom means this line here could have 3 answers. So there's no easy, good way to say that in the English language. So I don't even try. And we have to get out of that Greek mindset of if it's not perfect English, then I'm not interested. You have to, it's an acquired taste, academic work and thinking and expression and talking and in non-English. It's a Torah jargon. And the books that you'll be reading are written not in a language. Rabbinic language, as we said, is not a language. It's a jargon. Because it's just cobbled sourcing. And then you have to recognize the sourcing. And I told Jacques from the very beginning, give me 6 months and you'll get it. You'll be on your way. And you did. You won't be a master, but I'm not a master. No one's a master. It takes 6 months of just plugging yourself in to where you're set for life. That you'll know how to incorporate it. And it's not like you're not doing anything for 6 months. Just after 6 months, you'll be proficient in being you.
So where do you start then?
Right here. This is starting.
Okay.
Yeah.
What you're saying is, when you're getting it on a plate, you're getting it wrong.
You're getting nothing.
You're getting
Nothing. Nothing. And your ego will be stroked by those convincing you how you're getting everything.
That's the problem.
Right. These people actually think the divine code, they have everything. Man, if they knew how garbage that book is, it's horrible. And not because I said so, because it's the English version of the Shem Mitzvahs Hashem Hebrew, which it's a completely different book. How many of you guys have read a book and saw the movie and they were nothing alike? That's the divine code. So the divine code could be worth something as long as you would stop calling it the translation from the Hebrew. Just call it a new book. Then it's already salvageable. But once you call it the translation of the Hebrew, it is garbage. Because it's not that. Just don't call it that. Don't call McDonald's cuisine. Call it food. Then it's food. I was hungry. I had McDonald's. But don't say I had this tremendous cuisine at McDonald's. No, you didn't. You ate garbage. Once you call it garbage, now it becomes food. Don't say you listen to music. I hear stuff coming out of my computer. But don't say it's like a symphony. It's not a symphony. It's a cheap chip that they put in to get you to buy the computer. Don't be jaded.
You said something interesting, that there is an English translation that is more direct. Is there any chumash that you've seen that?
No, the English this genre has not been done yet, and it needs to be. Go to Chabad.org. How much are you getting from that? Oh, I get all my information from Chabad.org. That's why you're ignorant, and you'll stay ignorant that way.
Because you hear things that you want to hear.
That's it. Now, Devorah Fairfield, thank God she's getting the message. She goes down the threads. And every time this comes up, she'll say, yeah, but, Garrett is proselyte on everything you'll read, and it's not. And that's just one symptom of the problem. Just one. What's mitzvah in English? No, it's not. When you start getting into it, no, it's not. Not at all.
I don't know.
It's a lot of things. But the point is, everything you read is wrong.
Okay, but
Shakespeare was beautiful. No, he wasn't.
But you're saying now, explain that to us. You say it's wrong?
Yeah.
What is right there?
Everything you know is wrong. Everything.
Let's talk about mitzvah specifically.
Take any question that you want, anything. Go ahead, bring up any topic in the world, and I'll prove to you you're wrong.
Okay, but then this is it's a good example, and you're
What's that?
throwing out mitzvah.
Mitzvah.
You say you read about mitzvah.
Yeah, it does not mean commandment.
What does it mean?
You can't translate it in English. That's what I'm saying.
Exactly.
What is Ger Toshav? I don't know.
Give us a hint.
The hint is when God says, "Go command." God commanded Moshe, language Tzadik Vav Hey, Tziva, right? And then Moshe went, and then the people did it. It means, in my own terms, when I'm reading this in my brain, God blew Moshe's mind, and then Moshe went and blew their mind, and then they went and did it because their minds were blown. Try writing that in a book. Right, and why do they do God's will? Because their minds were blown. And then the challenge is that how do they then blow other people's minds so they'll do the Torah?
So it was inspiration.
It's exactly.
My mind's blown.
So yeah, it could be commandment if you knew the backstory. Everything you know is wrong. You have to constantly relearn everything.
Okay, so it seems
Yeah.
to be that the commandment part is a physical thing with compared to a spiritual thing.
Yeah. The more you learn any sugya, you will develop and find more wisdom. Always. It's always wrong. There's always more refinement. There's always growth. You're never done.
Is that linked to
That's true.
the
I don't disagree with
everything
that.
has 4 levels, and every 4 levels has 4 levels?
Fractal.
It's like that.
Fractal.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got the DAC now for my desktop, right? By achieving my success, I found 5 more problems. I bought an older chip. It doesn't go with my devices. So now I have 5 reasons to upgrade. But how far do I want to go? Do I want an opera house in my office? Probably not. I think I'm okay. I've done enough that it's okay, right? But if I needed to really have a symphony at all times, then no, I can't say that I'm done. But I'm done for me. But certain things you're never done. Again, certain things are everyone has in common, like beds. You're never done with the bed. Your mattress will be worn out. In X amount of years, you will be at this all over again, brand new. Some things you're never ever done, and you always have to refine and become more right with wisdom. Beds is one of them. Food. You can't go more than X amount of days without food. You got to solve that one. Certain things you have to solve. Torah is one of them. You're never done with Torah because it's one of those things you have to do until you die. You're never done.
Unless you just do nothing.
Yeah, shituf. No, hides. Do nothing. They do nothing. They believe in nothing. They think nothing. They find nothing. They want nothing. Because that's what the world sells you on nothing. Here, buy this computer, and you will never need another one again. Is that not the stupidest thing in the world? It's outdated every time.
But some people is happy in that position.
But because they convince you. And then what they do is to be satisfied like that, you have to have no changing interests or growth, right? So let's say let's say that your computer doesn't have the newest port, right? HDMI or something, right? Well, I don't need that. I'm all good. Then you know this broke and that broke. And now you have this thing that requires an HDMI port, and you realize your fantastic computer doesn't have it, right? So the world changes. You always have to grow and discover more. You can't stay that ignorant.
So you upgrade all the time, basically.
Well, but that's the thing. So the next thing is when you are in a mode of upgrading. And this is one of the really interesting things that I've seen in my life recently. You start to find what your perks are, what your things are. There's things like look around your house, right? How many hot spots do you have in your home? You can probably find them where they receive the most concentration from you. Can you see it in your house?
What do you mean hotspot?
Which is in the back.
Like
For you.
no, the things for you, like the things that you are constantly feeding energy into. Like if you look at my house, my books is one of them, right? This guy likes books. He's always getting more books, improving the books. That's like a constant. All right, my office is another one. This guy cares about his office. But the living room, not really, right? Not too much.
You lounge there.
Yeah, it's just, it's the living room.
Right.
So you find where that real heavy concentration is.
Right.
Like in my Torah topics, do I have 500 books on how to put your right shoe on first? No, I don't. But on Ger Toshav, I have like 500 books on it, whatever it is, right? So you find those concentration. So in my electronics that I do, I have concentrated things. Am I a rabbi? Yeah. Do I lecture? Yeah. So I have to have a good recorder. Can't not. So when I go to the electronics store, I always think to myself, because they display all the stuff, and I have to ask myself every time, do I need a better recorder? It's like a gevura that comes in my head, right? So if I believe in constant upgrades, I've had this since like 2008 or 9. Technically, this needs an upgrade, correct? Technically. But why am I still lugging this around and I'm not planning on upgrading it? For me, it's done. I'm done. I'm not a recording artist, okay? I need to be able to extract this audio file and put it on garbage YouTube, right? So this is stereo quality, takes a battery, it still has a viable USB port, it has everything I need, it is not outdated, it works for me. I don't have like 20 gigs of talking, right? So it's a perfectly refined thing for me. My body wisdom, my voice will never require an upgrade, right? I don't need to sound better and with effects to my voice. It's not happening. So this, I had to get a new one because Reuven broke his. So I gave him my old one, and now I have a new tablet that I couldn't afford. Why? Because this is essential, right? I bought this is expensive more than I would have liked. Why did I buy the expensive one? Because it has a better camera. So my glam that I have to have a good camera. So no, I found out that teaching Torah, I take high quality images of sources to show on Facebook.
So it's a better one, but not the best.
It has a good camera. Because if I post a blurry image of a source, does that help you? No. So I, as a rabbi, have to present a good image. So the only one was this model with the good camera. So with that, my needs changed. Now eventually this will die. And what is one of my trigger points for buying the next tablet in 3 or whatever many years from now? The camera. I will always have to have a good camera.
Whatever is the latest.
But I have to have a good camera. But my cheshbon is the newest, best camera. Because does it share easy? You know what I'm saying? Does it? I have to have a good camera. It's part of my job, right? Because again, I'm not taking pictures of big things that are easy to capture. We're talking minute, small text. It's got to be crystal clear. Because again, it's cheshek. Do you want to receive a book like this on Facebook? No. You want me to not give you this. Your expectations are I give you nothing but the best print because you are more deficient than me. Right? So if I can't read this, how are you going to read it? But if I go out and buy a good print book, ultimately to get a good picture of it to send to you, everyone wins. Yeah. Then the chain is working. The chain's got to be working. Yeah. But do I need, I don't know, other electronics I have, do I have to be the best? No. Some electronics I don't need at all. Do I need a lot of, a good GPS? I don't even know. The one that comes on the app is good enough for me.
When did Moses write the Torah?
They were brought out of Egypt in the year 2448, and this year is 5778. So he would have learned it his whole life, and then he received the wisdom of how to put the book together from God.
So you wrote in that time?
Yeah.
After they left Egypt?
Yeah.
And with what did he write it?
A bic?
A big.
A big pen.
I'm sure they probably had more wisdom than we do now.
But the Torah was never written by Moses. He downloaded it into his higher ranking officers.
Who knows? Could have been
he never literally.
Maybe I don't know.
He only had the Ten Commandments.
No, he would have written
shorthand.
He would have written. I don't know if he. Well, they say that he didn't write to the very end, but who knows? I'm sure he had a whole team.
And did he write every word that God?
I think that's looking. Let's not look at it from an elementary perspective, right? That's how. Again, one of my disagreements with Chaim. He's going to think that God told him, once upon a time, a little boy across the street. No. Wisdom, by definition, is a high thing. When you're going to go get a look in someone's shower, right? Tomorrow, someone's going to call you, and you're going to go look, right? Your thought process is very high. You have to size it up in a non-articulate way, and by the time you can express it to that person, you got to bring it down. So
how did we know that everything is the truth that you wrote?
Because it is sourced. Therefore, by definition, it's true. How do you know that the guy at the hardware store is not ripping you off, selling you the wrong thing? Because you'll say, well, maybe he sold me the wrong size screw because he's trying to rip me off. And no, because there's a standard size screw for the project that you're working on. It is impossible to rip you off. Meaning this is all sourced. When you understand the sourcing, you see it can't be anything else.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying, because the Torah is from God.
Yeah, but
Moses wrote it, but
the wisdom's in the world. This is all accumulated wisdom. Moses had the help from God to find the wisdom. Your problem, whoever you are, is, and Russell wrote this on Facebook tonight. There's a quote Russell Kirk on this. This came from our discussion. I like this. Let's see here.
You sent it to me.
Jok. Go out there. Hey. Okay. Okay. Jok. Let's see. The only thing that's new is the sugya you don't know. Mm-hmm. So when you're saying how do we know, what you're saying is this is new to you, so therefore how do you know? And the only thing is, just because it's new to you, this is very old to those that know it. So all the people that question the rabbinic, this is just, the oral Torah is just the rabbis, and that's because you're looking at it from a new perspective. It's only new to you. Right, the guy at the hardware store, you're the fifth guy today to ask him that question. It's not new to him. And if you were there at the hardware store all day long watching him work, you would realize there's no question. It's a standard policy, standard procedure. Yeah.
No, I can't think that Moses wrote it. I mean, maybe he wrote it, but...
No, there's no writing here. This is just sourcing. This is all sources. It's just sourcing.
Codified.
It's all codified.
So Moses got the whole lecture. He brought it down into
Natural.
in a nutshell, into the 5 books, and that's just the notes.
And that's all in code.
So when we read the Torah as we know it, it's just the notes. We know nothing.
What you're saying is Moses was a catalyst.
That's
Yeah, but
why
is it-
these oral Torah.
He compiled it.
Well, excellent.
And the Kabbalah.
But is that now from Moses or?
Wisdom is in the world. Always.
It was always there.
So Moses find that.
He went out and learned the wisdoms.
He find all the wisdom that's out
You know,
Yeah, he found all the wisdom. And when you become good at anything, you become divine. Like, for example,
That was Moses divine.
you're divine. Everybody is. Listen to what I'm saying. Why is it that I can't make a basket in basketball, but Michael Jordan, even when he misses, he still makes it? Because the rich get richer and the poor get poorer. The better you get the lucky bounce every time. That's why you don't gamble. Guys that know how to gamble will get luck on their side. Because it's not actually luck or witchcraft, it's how the world works, right? Meaning, when I shoot the ball, I'm just praying to God it goes in. When they do it, even if they miss, they let's say that...
the energy that
But let's say Michael Jordan is off balance and he's going to shoot it, and just before the ball goes out of his hand, he's able to contort his middle finger a little bit. There's a spin on it that he gets the lucky bounce. Meaning he contorts his body that it'll contribute to the cause. So when they'll say, "Wow, another incredible game-winning shot," it's not luck. That's the skill of the laborer. When Jacques barely drops the glass and he says, "Oh, thank God it didn't break." Why would it break for me but not for Jacques? He has better habits than I do. He's going to think ahead to lay down the carpet so that it doesn't break and shatter on a hard floor, whereas I wasn't even thinking about that. So the better habits you have, the better the lucky bounce goes. If I was a real scholar, I wouldn't have even brought this book. I would have had the good print already at home. So my expertise would have paid off, that I would have won on the airplane last night without even trying. So why did I lose? Because I'm not experienced enough yet. I'm still getting the experience. So therefore, Moshe, by being great at discovering the wisdoms, by definition, got divine quality from his work. But we all do. Craftsmanship is divine quality. Period. You only get better, it only gets more divine.
Okay, better, but not divine.
Divine. There is divinity in this.
Without any mistakes.
Wisdom is mistake-free and divine. I arrived from Israel, and thank God the plane didn't crash.
The divine is mistake-free.
Yeah. The wisdom is the divine, mistake-free entity. There was no fear in the world that plane was going to crash last night based on, well, we thought we had the engineering, it just didn't work out.
But Moses wasn't mistake-free.
The wisdom was mistake-free. Wisdom is mistake-free. If you shoot with perfect form every time, it'll go in every time. You will never miss. Ever. Ever. It's a perfect system based on your fingers, and your wrist, and your arm, and God created the world that way. You'll never, ever miss. That's why your job is to get the wisdom of how to use your body.
That is on one aspect.
Huh?
That's on one thing.
That's right. Every single thing in the world has wisdom in its craftsmanship. Planes don't drop out of the sky. Why is that? How do they have 100% success rate in flights? Aside from mechanical breakdown. I'm saying the wisdom doesn't sometimes work and sometimes not work.
always works.
Always. 100%. There's no such thing as an insurance claim. Oh, so Mr. Katz, you're flying. Hope you make it. They never say that. I don't take out insurance policies before I fly. Otherwise, I'd have to. So I'm looking to go to Cape Town. By the way, what are the chances of living on this trip? About 65% this week. Sign me up. I hope this is it. The more wisdom you have, the more divine your life becomes, and it is perfect. The chiddush is, wisdom's very, very hard to come by. And it takes a lot of work to get wisdom. I'm not a basketball player because I don't have the wisdom to do it. Michael Jordan went out and studied the wisdom of how to make it every single time. I didn't.
Is it the same for a wrestler, the grip that he does?
A wrestler, that's the thing. A wrestler will never, ever, ever lose when he has wisdom. You know why I was a horrible wrestler? Because I had no wisdom.
Was that the problem with David in the Bible?
What?
He had so many trouble then.
Because he was dealing with people that denied wisdom. People that deny wisdom, they don't. This is the conflict.
Yeah, but I mean, he had wisdom.
Yeah, and they denied it. His wisdom was very difficult. His wisdom is working with God. He went to the highest wisdom possible. How God will always intervene and reveal Himself.
He was running away from non-wisdom.
Huh?
He was running away.
He was running from non-wisdom, but his effort was basically to reveal God. That is that's like saying, I'm going to play basketball and I'm not interested unless I win the championship every single year. That's a very, very difficult wisdom to attain, isn't it? So that was what David went. He went after the heart of God. He only wanted God to reveal Himself. And there is a wisdom to do it. You can have a life of God revealed. But that's a very difficult wisdom.
Start when you're 3.
Huh?
Start when you're 3.
Yeah.
So is that the same with a thief?
A thief has wisdom. And a guy who picks pockets can pick your pocket every single time and never miss. Ever. And it's divine. You don't think that the thief has divine revelation of God? Absolutely. I saw a video on this on YouTube. One of the tricks is
they pray for it.
They do. One of the tricks is you put a sign that says, "Be careful, people pick pockets here." Yes. And then they say, "Oh man." And so now you just showed the thief that you have where your pocket. So now imagine when the thief is watching, and what is wisdom? Wisdom is the success that is fulfilled from beginning to end, right? So it is a divine quality to watch the whole effort and then it goes in, right? So that's why we watch sports, right? You see, from beginning to end, it was an accomplishment. So I'm going to pick your pocket, put the sign up, and I'm going to watch, like hunting, right? This idiot guy coming over, and I'm watching. I'm watching it unfold. My wisdom is happening. It all worked. I put the sign up, and then he read it, and then he shows his wife, and and I'm watching this. You don't think that's divine? I'm watching revelation happen. And then you do that, and then I go, and I get your wallet, and it's got $500 in it. That is a highly divine moment. Because I set a trap, you walked into it, it was perfected, I got rich. Now, it was backside, but don't think that there's no revelation in that. The total is nothing but revelation. I had the wisdom to know your deficiencies. I exploited it to perfection, and I got away. I mean, it's divine. Backside, total backside. But again, wisdom is wisdom, whether it's front side or backside. That's what I'm saying. You have wisdom. You are divine. You have it. Everyone does. What Torah seeks is to take you out of the backside. Did you ever think about not picking pockets? Did you ever think about maybe giving charity and having divine revelation through charity? Did you have to do it through backside? So it's taking everything on the front side. And Moses had a very divine, holy work. Not all work is holy. There's holy and not holy. He was working with the holy. Why is it that elementary school teachers get paid nothing, but their work's important, and people that work isn't that important make a lot of money? So,
like basketball players.
Yeah. So, you might not work in holiness, or you might work in holiness. He chose to work in a very holy field. So, he got repaid with holiness in the work. Right? If I wanted to invent a beer company versus a Kiddush wine company, which one is holier? Kiddush wine. So if it was beer company, I could be going to Asia and working with low character people. But if I set out to make the best Kiddush wine possible, you got to figure I'm going to be working with some pretty good people. So it eliminates the riffraff. It eliminates the klippa. I'm going to have some very divine moments.
What's actually interesting about the physical ability of our body and our brain is to adapt to everything that we spend time in. Your brain is forever changing. It's never the same. From when you were born till now, your brain is constantly developing and changing. So if you spend a lot of time in a certain thing, your brain has become more efficient in that thing that you spend time in, and less efficient in the thing you've forgotten. And so your brain is actually morphing into something to perfect whatever you want to perfect.
Right, and what is Greek thinking and what is klippa? It's the attempt to concretize that process so that you don't change.
Your brain is constantly...
Why do people make mistakes then if the brain
It's because they're not putting it into their system. They're not becoming part of that thing that they want to be. It's like a lack of interest. For example, if you love maths, and you convince yourself every day, I love maths, you're going to become a mathematician, a boffin in it. And you're going to find more and more stuff.
One of the biggest truthisms in wrestling is you're either winning or you're learning. Losing isn't one of the options. When you lost, it just means, I had to learn more. So there was no mistake. It was called I didn't learn enough.
Is learning.
Yeah.
That's part of learning.
That's it.
That's why I'm asking the question.
We can fast. We have learned that the reason why Moses received what he received on Mount Sinai was because he had the wisdom to receive that.
And a
So I'm
vessel.
not completely agreeing with what you're
No,
saying.
he was a vessel willing to receive that. That's the difference.
But there's also, he had the mazel to do it.
Yeah.
Why am I not a basketball player? Number one, I was not born over 6 feet tall. Number one. Number two, I didn't have the life experiences that brought me that wisdom. And I don't have the physical gifts of wisdom. For example, Moshe had an interest, we have to assume, in how to put together books. So he went after that wisdom and learned that wisdom. Everyone expects a fairy tale Messiah. It's not a fairy tale. That where I was a deficient wrestler is I was a delusional fantasy-based wrestler. I thought that my marginal effort and a lot of hoping and praying and wishing on match day would yield me this miraculous success, where I would again, that's where the gaps in the story, because I didn't have the answers of how this and that, and so then I was confused and upset when I would lose. And now with my favorite websites, flowwrestling.org, and they interview the great wrestlers, and I understand where I was delusional, because those guys don't have gaps in the story. They, for example, a lot of them have access to a gym 24/7. They have wrestling partners all the time. My school didn't let us even practice outside of season. So how could I expect to be good when I was doing it 3 months a year and these other kids were doing it 12 months a year? So in that 12 months versus 3 months, how much better do you get? Immensely. People always ask, why they're not getting gear. Me and Mike were saying, because they're not plugged into this 24/7. Jock's plugged in all the time. You have to be plugged into whatever it is you're doing to get it. So choose wisely what you're plugged into. A lot of people are plugged into video games, Facebook arguments, and you get very good at Facebook arguing. And they'll even have a degree for that. I'm a bachelor's now in Facebook arguments. I saw in China they have bachelor's degrees on video games.
But did it come to Moses naturally?
No, the drive was natural, but then you have to go and collect the wisdom.
Okay, but there must be a reason why did God chose?
He had That, he was given those gifts from his birth. That it was his job. We all have jobs. Michael Jordan's job was to become a basketball player. He was destined to be 6'6", 200 pounds. But we know what one of the biggest secrets of Michael Jordan's success is? He had one of the biggest set of hands in the history of the NBA. So what do you, aside from being 6'6" and 200 pounds, what do you do when you're walking around with a hand this big? What do you do with that?
Yeah, so much more control.
But your mind, how does it handle that? It needs to grip a ball. Your mind, what do you do if you have long, curvy fingers? What does your mind need to do? It needs to get it out and play piano. You have to get your wisdom out.
Or you pick up a flag and paint it.
Yeah. So when you have an abundance of gifts, we learned this in the Mazel class, you will go towards your thing. If you have strong vocal cords, you will sing. You have to get it out. So Moshe had whatever it took to do this, he had to get it out. He had it in him. Whether it was maybe he was able to speed read. Maybe Moshe could read faster than anybody in the history of the world.
But if he was the right person, why then 40 years in the wilderness with Yitro and everybody before?
Why did Michael Jordan get cut from his basketball team? This is life. Why is there challenges? It's life. Wisdom comes through the challenge. You can't unbottleneck it if you don't have the challenge. Like if I wanted to, I now know how to have a great music system. If I wanted to, I unbottlenecked it. Now, am I going to carry it out? Probably not. But wisdom is the ability to.
I don't think that's always, there have to happen something before God will give you that wisdom and maybe choose you to use you for do a certain thing.
Okay, but everybody has that. Everybody has that. Everybody has wisdom. Everyone has God in their life.
Okay, but wisdom is not the carpenter receiving the plumber info. Wisdom is the carpenter receiving the carpenter info, and that together is.
That's right.
Yeah.
Right. And then you say, how did he become a carpenter? Because it can be anything. My next door neighbor was a carpenter, and he gave me a job when I was 6, and he took me into the factory, and probably that neighbor, the carpenter, told this guy, here, I need you to cut 3 logs. And anybody else would have said, wow, you're asking a 6-year-old to cut logs? And then the 6-year-old cut it right. And he's like, man, this little 6-year-old cut better than my apprentice. And then he said, man, Johnny, you cut really good, better than my apprentice. And then Johnny got $5 for cutting for the neighbor. So then he became a thing. So when in high school, he took shop, obviously. Why didn't he choose basketball? Because he knew by that time he was going to be a carpenter. And then his whole life mazel fit that trajectory. Wrap it up? All right, stop there. Yeah.